Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 206. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, Dr. Norge in the comic forums, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim, the sensei of the whatnot Segulin, and the Duke of You Know. On this episode, we're joined by Comic Timing's Ian Levenstein as we discuss more events coming out of C2E2. We're really focused on our reactions to some of the news that was coming out of the DC Entertainment panel, the Green Lantern panel, the Flash panel, and, of course, the Batman panel. So we have all kinds of news there. We were so excited about this, it's actually turned into a two-part discussion. So you're actually going to get 2 episodes this week out of this one, and this is going to be fairly quick releases between the two. But I also want to put in some of the C2E2 interviews and some of our listener voicemails from our anniversary show talking about the greatest DC Universe stories of all time. One of the interesting things we found as we were having our discussion is we couldn't help but talk about the recently released War of the Supermen issues. So I want to give a special spoiler warning right now and say that War of the Supermen number 0 and War of the Supermen number 1 is going to be discussed on this particular episode. So those 2 issues are definitely ones that you're going to want to watch out for. Also, recent events in JSA are discussed on this episode, right up to the current issue, and recent events in JLA. So I don't want to ruin any of that for anybody. It was just somewhere we went because the news was, as we were talking about our reactions to it, we couldn't help but talk about those events as well. So, and we talk about all kinds of different books all over the DC Universe, but those are ones with particular spoiler warnings that you're going to want to watch out for on this episode. We are proud members of the Comics Podcast Network and the League of Comic Book Podcasts. Also want to let everyone know that we're now proudly sponsored by ComicCollectorLive.com. ComicCollectorLive.com, your comic book management source. Also sponsoring us this episode is DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. I want to remind you that Summit City Comic Con is coming up, and that is put together by the fine folks over at DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. That's SummitCityComicCon.com. That's going to be May 22nd. It's an all-day event, so definitely check that out to see if you're going to be able to attend. And the guest list is really stellar. It looks like a wonderful one-day con. Be sure to check it out, and Jim and I look like we're going to be making a road trip for that one, so very cool. I definitely want to shout this one out. I'm a huge Neal Adams fan. I mentioned it on the show before. This is Batman the Odyssey, number 1 of 6. This is the first of 2 6-issue miniseries that are going to be done by Neal Adams. This is written by Neal Adams, art and cover by Neal Adams, and this is going to be very cool. It's his return to Batman, and it's regularly $3.99. It's 50% off, only $1.99. So definitely, if you are a fan of Batman at all, you're going to want to be checking that one out. Now that we're past C2E2, we're going to be jumping on JLA Avengers, our next episode, and then going right to Batman the Cult. Batman the Cult is our in-stock trades Rage of the Month. This is the classic Jim Starlin, Bertie Wrightson series. It's regularly $19.99, 47% off, only $10.59. I'm dying to talk about this. Batman, Deacon Blackfire, Gotham City. It's awesome. So that's 47% off, and I want to thank InStockTrades.com for supporting us with that. So that's DCB Service and InStockTrades.com for your pre-order and trade and hardcover needs. So very, very cool. Those 2 services continue to support us. I want to remind everyone that you can hear us every week on Get Your Geek on Radio. That's GetYourGeekOnRadio.com, making geek chic. Jim, what kind of a podcast are we?
Well, Sean, we are a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth in plotline, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're reviewing on the show. So if we're going over something you haven't read, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Can Batman escape? One hint, the worst is yet to come.
Joining us for our C2E2 wrap-up episode is Ian Levenstein from Comic Timing. Ian, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing good, Sean. I'm doing good. Having a nice Saturday afternoon here.
Also joining us, if I don't mute him, is Jim Segulin. Hi, Jim.
If you don't mute me.
Because I already
discovered the mute button.
It's a wonderful thing. It does give me godlike powers.
It's the most wonderful thing for the show.
Oh, he's setting you up. He's seriously setting you up.
He is, yeah.
He's got the look on his face like, I'm going to mute you if you keep going.
No, I can just edit it out.
Okay.
It's, attending the DC Editorial Panel was Paul Levitz, Ian Sattler, Brian Azzarello, James Robinson, and Bill Willingham. And there was a lot to discuss. Some of it was, really new news. Other things were like some clarifications on where series were going and things like that. They kicked off right away talking about the 100-Minute War because James Robinson was, promoting that, which is the weekly series that's going on right now. And you guys have all read or taken a look at that so far. We've got issue 0 and issue 1 out so far with the 100-Minute War. And issue 1 this week had those big events with not only the death of Allura, but also the destruction of New Krypton. Did you guys see that coming, like this soon in it?
Well, part of me saw it coming. The other part of me was sort of hoping that it wouldn't happen because it was a major change in the DC universe to actually have Kryptonians around and for Supergirl to have her mother back and all this. And we had it for almost 2 years, which is in comic book standards a long time. But when this is all said and done, it's going to be really easy to just hit that reset switch and say there's only 2 Kryptonians left or whatever. And I mean, there might be more than that, but you have this entire planet full of superpowered beings. And I thought that made a wonderful motif almost for the DC universe. A major change for the DC universe. And I was hoping it was going to stick around a lot longer than it's going to, I guess.
It will be interesting, I'm with you, to see how many Kryptonians do stick around. Are we going to get more? Because, there's 100,000 of them initially. Mm-hmm. And we know that some obviously died with New Krypton, but there was quite the force coming towards Earth.
Yeah, right.
Really looking for revenge after that first issue. And it's going to be interesting to me to see how many do survive, because obviously Lane and crew on Earth are going to be able to kill some of them, but do you see them killing all of them off? Do you guys see that happening?
I'd say no. I'm actually thinking we're going to get some Kryptonians left after this. I don't see them staying on Earth. I think after the bodies have settled, I can see them going to another planet or finding another place to live that's either maybe in a red sun so they don't have their powers, or going somewhere else. I think we're going to get a couple still around. I think there will be some type of Krypton left. But, talking about just blowing up New Krypton, I saw it coming, but not this early. I really thought that was going to be Lane's counter-strike. When the Kryptonians come to Earth, he's like, fine, boom, there goes your home planet, because you didn't leave it defended type of deal. So to open up in the first issue to have it get destroyed, that was kind of a really wow moment.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I could easily see guys like Zod and his army, or at least his right-hand men and women sticking around. But it would not be surprising to me if a lot of the background characters that we really didn't see much of are just gone after this. But I could definitely see maybe Zod and Ursa making their way to, say, for example, Daxam. Because right now Daxam is still under a yellow sun, at least for now, in the DC universe. I could very well see the two of them perhaps taking a trip to Daxam and maybe trying to reclaim their former glory, as it were, and maybe trying to get a new army out of the Daxamites, and maybe go from there.
I was thinking they're going to make it, they'll be back in the Phantom Zone.
That's a possibility.
Zod, Ursa, and Nan will all be in the Phantom Zone, whether it's Superman who puts them there, Lane who puts them there, or Zod who says, guess what? I'll come back when I want to, and boom.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, the nature of the Phantom Zone has changed out of all this, right? Because didn't they send that being into the Phantom Zone, and now he's created, like, a world in the Phantom Zone? Is that right? Is that the way you guys were reading that? Did you read that, Jim?
I think so. Yeah. It's a little difficult to understand right now, to be honest. I mean, I think they're still trying to flesh that out a bit.
See, I didn't know if that was in the Phantom Zone or if that was inside the entity that is Nightwing.
They said that they sent it into the Phantom Zone,
okay,
which was the area that it was sent into after all that. So I don't know if that means that it changed the Phantom Zone or if he created something in the Phantom Zone. And Ian's right. We haven't seen anything that's come out of that yet, so there's a lot of opportunity to either leave that very contained in its own area or to flesh it out further, and right. I don't know.
Now, Sean, was this the same entity that was killing people in the Phantom Zone previously, or is this a separate entity?
Oh, I don't remember on that. That's a good question.
They never said that. Yeah. They did say previously that we're going to find out what Zod's afraid of. There's something in the Phantom Zone that Zod was afraid of.
Right.
Are we going to find it out during this war?
They said that back when, this was last New York Con, at one of the Superman panels at New York Con. and I'm pretty sure it was Jeff Johns who said it, but I'm not 100% certain. But he's like, because someone asked him about what's this entity in the Phantom Zone, he's like, you're going to find out the one thing that makes that Zod's afraid of. Now, maybe he was talking about Brainiac, or maybe he was talking about this entity, or there's something else we haven't seen. I'm not sure, because as I said, it's from New York, so I'm not 100% remembering every detail.
The destruction of New Krypton is interesting, though, because Allura's death is going to have a tremendous ramification for Supergirl. Her last words to her mother were not very nice. She was being very honest as far as, kind of reinterpreting what her father said as his last words. Watch out for your mother, instead of being... look after her, was maybe watch out for the way that your mother's going to behave, watch out for, what your mother's capable of, and those type of things. And she vocalized that to Mom, that her whole attitude had changed. And that was basically their last conversation, and Allura saved her life.
And Allura did at least evolve over the time on New Krypton. I mean, she went from being this angry woman that had lost her husband and was not actually seeing things straight to being somebody who was trying to bring the guilds, not even just the guilds, but the people of New Krypton together to try and be a society. And even going against Zod's wishes in certain aspects of that, with most recent issues of Superman and the related books as the best example there, where she realized, Zod may want one thing, but I'm the head of the guilds here. I need to do what's right for me and my people.
Her growing relationship with Kal-El during that whole series, it made me sad when she died, because I really thought that she became a very interesting character. I liked that she still had that skeptical bit as far as she didn't view Clark in the same way that somebody from Earth would, which was something that Zod's brought up previously. And I really liked that she as she got to know Clark, she became influenced by him and began to see how rational his ideas were and how they really were better things for Krypton. And that Clark really wasn't trying to... Any changes Clark was doing was to benefit that society and try to make the people better, not to hold them back or to make them too, quote-unquote, human. He was really trying to take a look at the system that was in place and to adjust them. I liked that because it made her, to me, a lot more interesting of a leader, where I began to actually view her as a good leader in it. And it was neat to kind of watch that. I thought that was one of the more interesting developments on the world of New Krypton was Allura.
Well, and it kind of reminds me a little bit how, and to make this somewhat topical, like how things work in the UK, where there's there's a king/queen and there's a parliament. These days the king/queen, well, specifically queen for now, doesn't really have that much power, but still people defer to her, and that's similar to the way that people defer to Zod because he's the head of the military, but she was the head of their quote-unquote parliament, where she could actually get things passed and she could actually make things law. Zod really couldn't do that too much. He could make edicts, but they would first have to go through the guilds in order to actually pass.
Well, and talking just, and onto that, you look at just New Krypton, now that all of the guild leaders are dead, we have no more council. So we're going to have the one person, Zod, take command of all the Kryptonians, even if this war wasn't going on, even if all this stuff, even if he wasn't already doing it, this would be another step for him to just be the dictatorship and really change some stuff within New Krypton. So I'm wondering if they're going to let him live and let us see this new development of the Kryptonian culture, because we've already seen a shifting. The Labor Guild was given a seat on the council. They were being looked at a little bit differently, and things maybe would be a little bit better for them in the future. Then Brainiac comes in and clean slate, takes out almost all of the council, and then final piece, Allura is now dead, so all of the council's gone. So all of the ties really to the old way are gone. It's going to be, when you take a society and you break it down and beat it down and just give it adversity, that's where you really see the character of the people coming out. So now we're really going to see what is a Kryptonian. Who are they? Are they going to be this conqueror, or are they going to, rise up and do something different?
Right, and with Zod at the helm, he's not going to accept help from anybody because he didn't even want the help of Superboy and the Legion when they offered it at the beginning of the war. With the Brainiac stuff, he wanted to imprison them. He didn't believe a word they said about wanting to help the rest of the bottled cities, or he did believe them and right now, the rest of the bottled cities didn't matter to him because he was too worried about, the Kryptonians. So he's going to be all about these remaining Kryptonians, and he's not going to want to get help from absolutely anybody else because their agendas may clash with his.
I wonder if we're not going to see use of Brainiac's technology to create a Kandor, a bottled city for the Kandorians. Because we're going to see that for this 100-minute war that's going to be going on, I can't see this ending where the Kryptonians are going to obviously coexist with humans. I think we're pretty clear on that at this point, that the damage is done. And it's been done by political maneuvering of Zod and Lane. And in all honesty, if Clark's ideas had been embraced earlier on, this could have all been prevented. It really was two factions on both sides. Zod, who was manipulating things for his own purposes with what he was doing on Earth, escalated things, and Lane escalated things as well. Otherwise, in all honesty, what Clark was shooting for would have worked.
Yeah.
And that's the interesting thing about all of this is Clark had the right idea. There's no way to it's impossible for them to go back at this point, though. So the original concept of the bottled city was the reason why the people chose to live in the bottled city was to live as a Kryptonian society in the city. They chose to live under a red sun. They chose to maintain what was Krypton in that city. So, when Superman used to shrink down and have adventures in there, it's what made it interesting is the people had a genuine reason as far as keeping, and it was, very much they had like flying cars and they had all these cool little things in there that was advanced technology in Krypton. And to me, this does lend itself to the possibility, if it's not a bottled city, to somehow having a society somewhere where they're depowered.
But that bottled city wasn't truly Kandor, as has been mentioned multiple times, right? I mean, that was just a city that took on the name of Kandor.
And that's what I'm saying. As far as right now, obviously Kandor has been Kandor is no more. Which, and I loved that it was Luthor and Reactron. It was Luthor's little bit with Reactron. There was nothing throwaway about that. It was him sneaking something in, and he's going to come out of this super clean. I mean, talk about a guy who got a second chance at life. I mean, he's going to come out of this looking like a hero.
And you think about it also, who has been the person who's primarily gone against Lex Luthor? A Kryptonian. Granted, it's Superman, and everyone loves Superman, but they're still going to be that anti-Kryptonian sentiment. So when everything's said and done, Luthor will have a presidential pardon, which he already has. He will be the guy known as the person who helped blow up the planet of New Krypton. Plus, he'll be the guy who fought alongside the champion of humanity, General Lane. So this is a guy who, and you look at his past, look at what he's done in the past. Well, that was a Kryptonian accusing him of it. So there's going to be a lot of stuff that he's going to come out great in.
But see, here's the thing. If Luthor's smart, and I don't think he's going to ally himself with General Lane as far as in the public eye. He's going to get a presidential pardon. I think he's going to distance himself from Lane.
Yeah.
Because Lane isn't going to look good at the end of this. Look what's going on with Lois and Jimmy right now. I think they're going to expose Dad. So I don't think we're going to see Luthor allying himself with Lane. I think what he's going to do, if he was smart, and this is just speculation on my part, the smart thing for Luthor to do, if there's any aftermath of this, any destruction on Earth due to this, LexCorp is going to be part of the cleanup process, part of the rejuvenating process.
Yep.
Helping these places to, hey, I'm Lex Luthor. I'm a man of humanity. I see what you're all going through. I'm going to be there for you. This is a great PR opportunity for Lex to be a savior post all of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think will be interesting.
Not to compare too much to what's going on in Marvel, but very similar to how Norman Osborn made out after the Skrull War. It's how he came out with his head held high because he was viewed by the people and by the government as the savior and wound up reaping the benefits because of it. I think Lex Luthor is going to wind up at a very similar place in DC.
Well, we see that today in today's media. It is very much about working the media. And I think that's why it works so well. And when you're using a Norman Osborn comparison, it works because we very much see how our society is driven now by the media, by newspapers, by the internet more than anything else now. You get the word out to the right places. We're the TMZ society.
Yeah.
If you get that word out like there, people are influenced by that. What's going to get you the most hits on the internet and what's going to drive you up to Google. And those are going to be the types of things that Luthor and your Norman Osborns and people like that are going to take advantage of to completely change the way the public views them. To have their second coming. We forgive. I mean, you see people that were being trashed 4 or 5 years ago are now all of a sudden in the limelight, or could be trashed further depending on,
Depends on how they do it and what they do. And
Right. One hit movie, for example, can take an actor who was kind of out of the public eye and revitalize him. Look at Mickey Rourke.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's pretty bulletproof.
Robert Downey Jr., same thing.
God.
Exactly. Two guys who are very bulletproof right now because they've become very interesting to us now. And I think that it's very topical, you're right. It's very interesting right now to see this because it applies to our way of life and what we see. And I'm going to be interested to see what LexCorp looks like after this and what kind of trouble it's going to bring for Superman to have Luthor in power in this type of society. Because we haven't seen that in a long time. With everything that he's been going through, he's been out of the limelight as a leader of a major corporation for quite some time post being president.
Yeah, I do want to see Luthor in charge of Luthor Corp again, and just how he plays off. Where yes, we know he's a villain, but you can't touch him. He's the Teflon Don who nothing sticks to him. He's always able to slide out of it. So kind of looking forward to seeing that return of Lex Luthor.
Oh, also at the panel they were talking about Doc Savage and the Spirit. This whole this whole world that Brian Azzarello's crafted and have spun off into their own series, and how his mini-series, that initial one that he did, First Wave, he said the reason why it was called First Wave is because more than likely there would be a second wave.
Yeah.
And I'm anxious to see. I'm really liking what they're doing and making these characters a little more pulpy. I also like the fact that we've got a Batman and a Black Canary and characters like that. It's not part of DC continuity. It's got its own continuity, which I think for these characters in particular, they need that. They need their own world that's crafted to the types of storytelling that needs to be told there. It makes that, because the Batman there, it's funny how I don't have any issues with that Batman because I so totally know it's not meant to be a part of our continuity. It's a different imagining of that. And Azzarello plans to take him to the place that we are typically expect Batman to be. But we're going to see how this Batman gets there. But it's interesting, though. Like, he was talking about the Spirit and how he said it's real dangerous with characters like the Spirit and Doc Savage to become too reverential. And he said that's a risk. And he said even Will Eisner, when he would talk about characters like the Spirit, he doesn't want people to retell his stories. He wants them to tell new stories. So, he said that I had to really get to the core of who I see the Spirit as. And the Spirit is a good hero, but he's not a great hero. And he said that to me makes him an interesting character. It's about him finding his way in the world. And he said that's something that this series of the Spirit that's being written now is going to explore, him finding his way in the world. And I liked I don't know if either of you read the first issue of the Spirit, but I really like that. I liked the last series, but this series to me is now kicking off in a new direction, and I really like that it's completely divorced itself from what came before. And that's no insult to what came before, but at this point with First Wave, it relaunched this whole universe. And he does feel like he's an accessible character because he's not this perfect, great hero. But you've got that with Doc Savage, which is cool. And I like the distinction between the two because they don't feel like they're the same type of character. So I'm anxious to see eventually if they team up together, which you almost imagine if they're in the same world, we're going to see the two of them have run-ins. I'm anxious to see when they team up what that relationship's going to be like between the two of them. I'm sorry, Jim. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say how about with Doc Savage and how he even talked about the difference between the two characters. And we're already seeing that as some of the stuff that have come out about Doc Savage being that great hero, being the person you want to aspire to be. And that for me, I was thinking immediately, first thought that popped in my head, of course, was Superman, when you talk about the great hero that everyone aspires to be. So it's like he's this world's version of Superman. He doesn't have superhuman powers, but he has that, that hope. He provides that, that look up in the sky type of feel when Doc Savage shows up. So I thought that was a kind of a cool, just, contrast of who the characters are and just their differentials.
He's almost a little cocky and inaccessible at times too because of that. It's slight, so it doesn't make him unlikable. I like the character a lot, But it's interesting because he's got that quality where you look up to him because of all that he does. And I like that. When I'm reading him, I do see him as a character that I would look up to, but I would not necessarily be comfortable sitting down at a table when chatting with, because I would always feel like I was something less. Whereas with the Spirit, he's a guy you can hang out with.
Spirit, you can sit back and have a beer with.
Yeah.
Get some wings and just relax and throw down a couple beers, just hang out with the Spirit. That's the kind of person he is. Doc is the person, wow, you're Doc Savage, oh my god. That's the, I go into immediate Chris Farley mode, like, wow, you're cool, kind of deal where I couldn't, present what I was actually thinking if I was, around the guy.
Yeah, well, it's funny about this universe because you have, in essence, two Batman archetypes running around. I mean, you have the Batman, which is, like you said, he's going to evolve more into the Batman that's, similar to what we have. And you have the Spirit running around, who is basically the Batman to Doc Savage's Superman. So Batman's going to have to play a different role in this universe, because if you make them too similar, then you're literally going to have two Batmen running around, and really, what's the point of that?
I agree, and I think that's why it's so totally working for me, because I'm a Batman nut, and I love Elseworlds with Batman, and this to me feels like one big Elseworlds, where it really is, and even taking it to a different level, a lot of times the Elseworlds book, you got to see how the core Bruce Wayne that we're used to would react to that world, and we're seeing that with this world as well to a certain extent, but you're right, he's a very different character because the world around him's so different. And I like that. I think it's an interesting distinction. It's working. It's currently working right now. I like, though, that they haven't given him a book. I like that he's a part of the world, but they're not... Right. I don't know that I necessarily... I would pick it up, I'll admit it, because it's a Batman book, and it'd be kind of Elseworldsy, so yeah, I'd pick it up. But I like that the focus is on Doc Savage and the Spirit right now, and that we have this idea that Black Canary and Batman could pop up in their books at any point in time.
And they said Wildcat was going to be making an appearance, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Kind of curious about that one, because you think about it, he's another one of those non-powered, non-meta-powered superheroes that could very easily come over into this non-meta, universe. So, how much different is Wildcat going to be? Is he still going to be Ted Grant, the former boxer, or is he going to be a different person, a different type of character?
Well, Azzarello said so himself, that the character is going to be very different than the one that you're used to seeing. It'll still be Wildcat, but it will be a different character. So whether or not he was saying that it will be a completely different character with a different name and maybe even a different gender, we don't know. Because, I mean, there was a female Wildcat at one point. I think it would be a nice monkey wrench to throw in there if the Wildcat that we meet is actually female and not male here in this universe.
The female Wildcat, though, was inspired by the original Wildcat. She took over for him. I don't... When he was talking about it, I thought I heard him reference Ted Grant specifically. And and if you think about the pulpy world that he's crafting here, actually Ted Grant, as a boxer, fits this world.
You're right.
I think right off the starting gate. Now, going off of what you're saying, you could easily do a female boxer as well. You could kind of do an interesting little twist on the whole thing, and it could go there. I could see that working. I do think I think he's going to go with Ted Grant, though, because he seems to be kind of going towards... Like, Black Canary kind of fits being a part of the pulpy world because of her old JSA background, and not that they're doing JSA, but I mean, that character has a history that could kind of easily fit into this type of world. Batman does, too. These are characters that I think, and Wildcat obviously fits into that as well. I wonder if we're going to see any more of them. I don't want them to go too far with that, because to me, I think having echoes of DC characters that are non-powered in there works, but I do want to see the focus still be Doc Savage and the Spirit, and... I think it makes it interesting to see little hints of DC characters that we're used to, and I think it is a good way to hook in DC readers. But the thing that works for me about this world is so much that it's different, that it needs to stay that way. Because you got to give people a reason, like, okay, if I'm going to go jump over and read Doc Savage and the Spirit, I clearly want to read something that's not traditional DC Universe. That's going to be the draw. That's going to be kind of the thing for me. I'm giving them credit for experimenting with this, because they've done it with the Red Circle characters. They've done it with this. And I know these are books that, like Red Circle, for example, didn't sell as well as they were expecting. But I really enjoyed that. I like the experimental nature. I need a couple books in my reading list that are a little outside of the big universe things. I like those character books that are kind of divorced from it. I wonder if it is going to help these books to not be a part of the DC universe proper, kind of more like a Jonah Hex kind of thing. Because Jonah Hex, yeah, it is part of DC's history, but it doesn't tie into anything that's going on in current continuity. Or if that's going to ultimately be like something that puts up a roadblock. Because the Red Circle characters, they've kind of been tying them into the DC universe, but they haven't been selling as well. So I wonder if this might be a more of a benefit. I don't know.
I would say because this is such a different, it's not in our universe, this is probably going to do better. Because you'll get the people who want the Elseworld type feel to it, and who you'll get the Azzarello fans just coming in saying, I'm a fan of him, I'm not a fan of this. So they'll come in and pick up his stuff and get into this type of genre. It's I think the problem that the Red Circle characters had was that we enjoyed the story and we gave the stories a chance, but I think a lot of people out there said, I'm not going to give a whole nother universe a chance, and it's a whole nother,
Well, it wasn't a whole other universe. It was part of the DC.
A whole other tie-in to this universe. A whole other, like that kind of stuff. I get enough of the DCU stories that I don't need to go to these other people. So if people picked up one issue and said, it didn't catch me, I'm not going to go on, and moved on with it. Whereas this is, since it is its own separate type of entity, it's, as we keep throwing out, Elseworld feels to it, and that, I think, will draw people in more.
I'm not going to go...
And another part of it is that... I think in the overall sense, the Red Circle characters, yes, they are old characters that, people might be somewhat familiar with, are not even close to as familiar with the general public as Doc Savage and the Spirit, because those are characters that, even if they have gone away over the years, still have been in one way or another in the public eye, still coming out from one company or another. The Red Circle characters were basically non-existent for over 30 years. I mean, they just were not in comic books at all, and then all of a sudden DC tried to bring them back and said, hey, we're going to do something with this, let's give it a shot. And it's difficult, even if these are separate characters from the original Red Circle characters, it's difficult for people to come on board for characters that have a rich history that absolutely nobody knows. That they've been gone for absolutely this long, and yet no one's experienced them before. You're going in with a clean slate. You know absolutely nothing about the characters, and you need to learn from the ground up. That's a bit difficult.
I honestly think things like First Wave, like, to me, I want to see them market this stuff outside of comics. Yes. To fans that are outside of comics, because I think these are, you don't need for First Wave to know anything. It's a brand new launching universe. So realistically, this should be targeting not us specifically, because obviously those of us that are fans of Azzarello and all that, we started following First Wave, and then we picked up the other two books accordingly. But I think it's a perfect opportunity to target, and I'm sure to a certain extent it pulled in Vertigo fans as well.
Yeah.
Which, that's very cool. But I want to see more done, and I don't want to go too crazy in this because this is a whole other topic that we could jump into for hours. But I want to see more done to target people who aren't reading comics, because I think this is a great opportunity that I think is missed a little bit with, and not just digital, but even in just paper comics, talking about, not just, but, reaching out to fans that are fans of science fiction. This is for mystery websites. People that are, James Bond fans, people that are, like a Doc Savage appeals to that type of audience. It's kind of circulate around. I want to see more comic ads popping up in weird places, in sites that you wouldn't normally expect to see a comic book ad for. And when they click on that link, having a full digital issue to read. With links to comic shops or with whatever, as far as how we can get that further. I don't think enough's being done, because I see quality books. We talked about Red Circle. I think the Red Circle books were quality books. And I think they were books that you needed to read them for a certain amount of time to get really hooked into them. I think this is a quality book that I think could hit a new fan. Somebody who's not currently reading, and I think it get different numbers because you can jump onto the ground floor. You don't need any background or anything. And I want to see books like this, kind of reach a new audience. Because I do think the pulpy nature of it is something that people reading it, they aren't going to get something that they would traditionally expect from a comic book. Of course, we all see that there's a lot of comic books that already do that. I rant and rave about Secret Six all the time, and that to me is, you pick up Secret Six, you're going to get something you don't normally expect from a comic book.
But you are right though that this is exactly the type of book that you could market to absolutely anybody. You don't just have to be a fan of superhero comics or of comics period to enjoy this. This is just this is just a story that happens to have pictures.
And it doesn't have, like, when you read it, it doesn't have a traditional, what you would expect from a quote-unquote superhero book, which I think is something to show to a fan who thinks that they understand everything that superhero comics are. It's not that dun-dun-dun, you always do the dun-dun-dun Superman moment. It's not that type of book or feel, so it'd be something to show somebody and just say, it's not what you think they are. There's something more. Comics can go in a lot of different directions. Storytelling, even though, yes, Doc Savage is a superhero, it's not what you would expect from a superhero book. And I think that's what's interesting about it. And I think that it could appeal to a different audience. The Spirit has that same accessibility, and I think that's cool.
Right.
Yep. Levitz was talking about the Legion and how it was like a wonderful reunion for him. And he goes, what's great about this is this particular Legion has been away for so long from the public eye. There are years we don't know about. So we're coming back, and it's like the high school reunion where he said, I get to tell you how messed up they got along the way with their relationships and things and what changed. He's clearly going to continue on from what Johns has established in the Superman and the Legion of the Superheroes, that run, and Brainiac, and then the stories that have gone through.
Earthman, that he said is going to be around still, and all of those guys. So
and Final Crisis.
Yeah.
Legion of Three Worlds. He said that we're building right off of that. And he said that the whole, what we just saw actually prior to War of the Supermen, this whole wrapping up of what the squad that had come back, he said that's all going to be done. And he said it's all stories in the future now that they're back. What does everything mean for them? What have they been up to? What is their world like now? And I loved the enthusiasm from him, and I loved that he wasn't cocky about it. It was he was very endearing to listen to, because he's this revered Legion writer. So he could come back to this and technically be very cocky, because we're all naturally expecting it's going to be good. I'm expecting it's going to be good because he's writing it. And with his Legion stories, everything I've read, Legion that he's done, I've enjoyed. And I'm reading a lot of this in trade or in issues that I've been grabbing at cons, because I'm kind of backtracking now and reading a lot of his stuff, and everything that I've been reading is really, really good. So this guy gets how to tell really great futuristic Legion stories. I love, though, that he is talking about how he hopes the fans like him coming back as much as they hope they're going to, and all that stuff. There was something endearing about that, because sometimes when people are promoting something, they come off as like a little overconfident.
Yeah.
He was so endearing when he was listening to him talk. I'm like, I was rooting for him. I was sitting there. I'm like, I'm behind Paul. I'm like, this guy's coming back into it, and he's. To me, I think that's what makes a good writer. When I think they think through, am I doing this right? Am I careful enough? Am I doing a story that's interesting enough for my fans? I think the ones that phone it in, the ones that are overconfident, are the ones that kind of lose touch a little bit. Whereas this guy clearly is not phoning it in. He's trying really hard. And I think he's going to deliver some great stories because of that, if that makes sense.
Oh, definitely.
And similar to what Peter Tomasi went through,
yes.
This is a guy. This is a guy who's changing his job in order to tell stories that he's been wanting to tell. And that's what's great about Paul Levitz is that he's going back to a job that might not pay nearly as well, but makes him feel better about what he's doing every single day. And that's just it. I mean, I remember Levitz mentioning in at least one of the panels I was at that it feels weird to be at a convention and know that I don't have 173 things to do. That I'm just here to talk about my work and then be able to explore the floor. I mean, this is like an entirely new world for Paul Levitz, and yet it's old home week. And that's what's absolutely great about it, is that he's going back to characters that he knows and loves and will be able to craft new stories with, and hopefully do a great job of it. I think he's going to. And
how much they've all changed. The Tomasi comparison to me is, I think, a perfect comparison, because look how fantastic he's been with everything he's touched.
Yes.
I think, Tomasi's a name I follow now. If he's on something, I'm like, oh, this is cool. It's going to be good. And that really is my genuine feeling when I see his name attached to a book. I have instant confidence that it's going to be something I'm going to enjoy, because all of it's been great all the way through. I've liked his Nightwing, his Mighty, the Green Lantern Corps. I mean, his books, as he's been touching them, have been just really fantastic. So, Levitz, I think, is going to have that same kind of appeal. And I do like the fact that there's something to me that inspires confidence in me in knowing that he's not overconfident. That to me just says this guy's really trying and he's going to nail a home run because of it. Yeah. I think that's important in comics. I do think that an artist is somebody who's not overconfident. They're constantly trying to do new things because he is talking about these characters have changed a lot. So are these changes in these characters going to appeal to fans? And to me, if he retold the same old stories that he did in the past and tried to put these characters back into their past spots, that wouldn't be interesting. I want to see them change. I want to see that there has been something that's happened to them over time, because that's what makes them feel real. That's what makes them feel like people. So I want him to try new things with the characters. I want him to try to play with the toys. And, are we going to like everything he does with the toys? Well, no, but that's what's interesting. You want to sit there and get mad at something the character's done. You have to do that. You can't sit there and go, oh, wow, everything's hunky-dory and it's great. And that, to me, that's not interesting storytelling.
Well, if you're able to get an emotional reaction out of the readers, then you've done part of your job correctly as a creator. So I think we're definitely going to get some feelings or reaction from us when we start seeing what's going on. Legion is one of those things where I'm slowly going on. I'm getting more excited about this. And part of the stuff you talked about, just the way he was at the con, I agree completely with you. He had that nice, just kind of subtle calmness to him. I'm like, okay, this guy knows what he's got. And I'm going to see where it goes with him, because Legion it fires hot and cold for me. Sometimes I'm very Legion, loyal, very I am Legion kind of deal, and other times I'm like, oh, okay, whatever, but I'm right now at that point where I'm interested to see where this is going to go. So I'm curious to see his writing, and just everything that finishes up some of the cool stories that we've had going on, and then where it goes after that.
Yeah, well, that first cover that I saw, I think it was for issue 1. If not, it was for issue 2. Where, I saw the solicitation, that a Legionnaire is going to have to choose between being a Legionnaire or being a member of the Green Lantern Corps. Right away, I'm there. You've hooked me on at least the first 3 or 4 issues of this series, because I'm really interested to see, after the events of Final Crisis Legion of 3 Worlds, where the Green Lantern Corps is going to go next. And that Levitz is crafting that in there as well. Makes me very hopeful for what I'm going to see.
I love that the Ion entity, or at least the Legion, the Green Lantern who is carrying the Ion entity, is still alive in the future.
Yeah.
And that he seems to be like the new Guardian in there. I'm interested to see, I'm assuming now from that solicitation as well, that we're not talking about him.
No, we're not.
I think we're talking about who he's giving the ring to.
Yep.
Because I think he's going to be building a new core in the future. Because the way that he was talking at the end of that, if you look back, he was talking about rebuilding at the end of that series. So I wonder now if this is going to be...
I didn't even think of that. I was actually thinking all this talk has been going on about him, and that, but no, it's going to be somebody else who... Mm-hmm. Oh!
But with him giving that person...
And that person will have to choose between, are you Legion or are you Lantern?
Mm-hmm. Or are you both?
Because can you be both?
Mm-hmm.
Can you do it? Can you be both? Because the thing with being a Legion, you have your duty to the Legion where they step up. But if you're a Lantern, you have your sector. Can you leave your sector to go help another?
Can you be JLA and can you be Green Lantern? Yes.
Yes, but the JLA operates primarily in his sector.
Right.
Well, not 100% true, though. If you take a look at a lot of the Justice League stories that a Green Lantern's been a part of, they've gone different dimensions, different worlds, different universes. You're still in charge of your sector. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be interesting. But another thing is, too, is there going to be only one Green Lantern named to the sector? So then that does add to, going off of what you're saying, with the current system right now, it looks like we've got 2 Lanterns. You've got Hal and John, for example, on our sector. So, like, if one goes off with the Justice League, the other one's still patrolling. What's going to happen in the future? I'm very curious. I'm with Ian in the sense that these questions we're talking about are what has me excited, because I want to know all this. How is Levitz going to play this out? That just the chatter that we're having right now off of a small solicitation just proves to me that the story concept's interesting. Because we could literally go on speculating about this, and that's cool. So he's got some great ideas, and playing off of things that we like in present as well.
Yeah.
In the present continuity. But doing it in the future in a different environment is kind of cool. JSA, Bill Willingham was talking about this, and this alternate universe story is going to be wrapping up soon. But he was talking about how this whole thing's going to get worse. Are you guys both reading JSA? Are you current on JSA, or are you?
I'm current on JSA. I'm not entirely digging it because, and I mean this is a weird thing to say, but I'm concurrently reading the trade of Days of Future Past X-Men and realizing just how many story points are comparable, and realizing that I kind of like the original better, but. I mean, yes, no ideas are original, and he could be doing an homage, or he could just be, it could just be similarities that are acting up and are there a little bit. But I kind of can't wait to be back in the regular DCU, to be completely honest, with the JSA.
See, I'm liking this story. For a lot of the reasons that you're saying. I think any story that takes place in the future where it's an alternate future, where it's bleak, you're going to compare to stories like Days of the Future Past because of the fact that it's a bleak future, and because of something horrible that's happened, you're going to see these horrible things happen to characters like Batman and Superman. We've got a one-eyed, patch-wearing Superman running around because of the fact that the man's been depowered. And I love this the one thing I am digging is these characters get an incentive during these executions and these public displays for wearing their costumes. They get extra rations and things like that. And the reason why is they want them wearing their costumes so they're humiliated. And it's a humiliation aspect of the whole thing that they're loving of it. What are you...
I'm giggling because when... something just popped in my head. He's a one-eyed, patch-wearing, no-flying Superman. One-eyed, patch-wearing, no-flying Superman.
Wow.
That one comment threw it in my head, and I just had to release it.
I saw you sitting there chuckling. I'm like, I've got to ask him what he's chuckling about because it's distracting me at the moment.
Sorry.
And, no. It was actually for funny. It was worth it. But that's the part that I'm finding interesting with it. I'm totally with you, Ian. I do see comparisons to that story, but I think you could... There's been lots of, in science fiction, bleak futures where we've seen it. I'm curious to see how this is going to be explained that it didn't happen. Because I mean, the event in present day led to this.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So how is this going? I don't see where and how this is going to be undone.
It's just that I'm pretty sure that this point is going to be pretty similar to what happened in Days of Future Past, where they're going to find a way to either put someone's consciousness back in their previous incarnation, so that they can stop the box from exploding on Alan, and then the events happen differently, and that he doesn't die, and that things are changed, or they're going to be able to send back like a note. Similar to an episode of Stargate SG-1 that I love, where they send a note through the gate and that changes history. If they find a way to maybe even just send something as simple as a note back in time saying don't pick up that box, to change things, then there goes that entire dystopian future. Things are different. You've got Alan Scott on your side. You've got Green Lantern on your side, and you're going to be able to defeat them like nobody's business, and that's it. And by the way, also another comment that I needed to make real quick is that the one thing that I am really digging is that they had to make an entirely new Blue Beetle outfit for Jaime Reyes for him to be in that.
Yes.
At these celebrations, because his scarab doesn't work anymore, so they had to sew him a new outfit. That's going pretty far there, man.
But all for the purpose of humiliation.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And I actually like that.
They didn't even get the outfit entirely right. That's what I like about it. It's like looking at it, it's a combination of Ted Kord and his outfit.
Yes. See, that to me, that's where the story is interesting to me is, and I give them credit for not making it a JSA-only story. Right. Because if it is something that would affect... the entire world, you would have all these characters. I like that the JSA characters are clearly it's Mr. Terrific is clearly the focal point. And he's got this plan in play, and he's such the key to the whole thing that they're willing to give their lives to keep him in play.
Right.
And it was, talk about Jaime, he had just a powerful moment in the most recent issue where he gave his life.
Yeah.
And deliberately was attacking him to the point where this is all to make it look like Mr. Terrific now is such a broken man and is so broken to their way of things that he won't even put up a fight anymore.
Right.
And
That's why I'm thinking it's either going to be him putting himself back in his previous incarnation's body to stop the events, or sending something back in time to stop it from happening. Those are really the only two outcomes I foresee happening here.
I wonder if Obsidian's not the key to some
I
of
think
this, too.
Obsidian's the key.
Could
It's doing something, changing, because you think about it, the whole powers were cut off because they did something to Obsidian. So he has to prevent them from doing that thing to Obsidian, or rig it up so that when they do the thing to Obsidian, it doesn't actually work the way they think it's going to work. Kind of one of those tweaking the formula, so they don't know it. So when they go through their processing of what they think is going to take the egg Obsidian and make them the power battery or whatever however they used it, instead of that, they'll restore Obsidian. So when they make their move to use Obsidian, it's going to instead restore Obsidian, and boom, and that will be the change for everything. That's how I'm thinking it's going to go down.
But that would ruin the subtitle of the storyline. How long is Obsidian going to remain a damn egg?
But I think we've already seen Obsidian is restored.
Yeah.
In some of the preview images and things like that. So I think
in JLA
JSA.
Yeah.
That teaser. What was interesting in that teaser, if you look at it too, I took it as they were combating Alan Scott. Now, that may be just a red herring, but considering the story is focusing on what is the Starheart and what is the power of it and things like that, I'm glad to see that we're going to see members switching teams. We're going to get some new JLA members out of the JSA from this crossover. I'm looking forward to a big, epic JLA, JSA crossover that isn't tied into... This, to me, is, I think, something that we're seeing a lot, both DC and Marvel doing a lot of this, where there's events that are happening other than the big event. And I think that's important. I think there needs to be stories like that somebody who's reading JLA and JSA right now can get their own little mini event without having to pick up the big event.
Yeah.
And for me, who I am reading the big events, it's a nice breather to me to have some other big epic thing that I'm enjoying reading that's a little outside. I'm looking forward to that crossover just because I'm looking forward to a cool, stable Justice League team. And I've liked the way that it's kind of organically flowing to that. And I'm looking forward to seeing how the JSA is going to wrap up after this, because there's a lot of characters that aren't being used in JSA right now that could easily be plugged in to positions that are taken from characters like Jessie Quick now, or Liberty Bell coming out, which she's going to be Jessie Quick in the Justice League. Those positions are going to open up spots for different characters, and I'm interested to see who they put in those places.
Well, here's the thing. Obsidian is actually in the most recent JLA issue. In the back of the, if you think of at the back of the issue, when they're all around Alan Scott going, "Hey, what's going on here?" There's Obsidian standing right there.
Right, that's what I said. We've already seen him in present day.
Yeah.
So my curiosity at this point is he's got to be restored in the storyline, right?
I guess. Yeah. That's the only explanation, because that would be a major continuity gap if all of a sudden he's just better. So they've got to give us the answer at the end of this storyline. Yeah, but. For that matter, what do you prefer, Jessie Quick or Liberty Bell? Because I'm more of a Liberty Bell fan.
Oh boy.
I think I'm more of a Liberty Bell fan, but I do like the fact that she's throwing down the speed and she's doing the formula. I'd like her to do the Jessie Quick style, but in the Liberty Bell costume and name.
How much did you guys read her as Jessie Quick previously, though? Did you read
a whole lot? Actually, I've read most of Mark Waid's stuff.
Okay, so you're with me.
I'm none.
Okay. See, I've been liking her so much as Liberty Bell that I'm inclined to agree with you guys in the sense that I like the identity. I'm an All-Star Squadron fan, so I liked Liberty Bell in there, and I love that she's taking over for her mother. So I love that archetype and that particular character. So I'm like, ooh, I'd love to see her stay as Liberty Bell. On the other hand, I do love the tie to the whole Jessie Quick concept from what Waid did, because I love so much his Flash family concept, and that gives us a Flash on the Justice League, and yet it's not a Flash that we would expect. And I'm a fan of them using characters for these team books that aren't necessarily in solo titles, because then that gives the writer of the team book a chance to really mess with them. I think you need that, though. I think sometimes team books, if you've got too many characters that are having big changes happen to them in their solo title, that limits what the writer of the team book can really do to them. On the other hand, if you've given them a lot of characters who don't have that, like, you got Donna Troy on there, you've got Jade, you've got Jesse Quick. These are characters who don't have their own title. And aside from their interactions with other, team books, like, Jade, obviously we're going to see some interactions with her with the Green Lantern Corps, I'm assuming. You don't really have her locked down to any particular book. So those are characters that they can play with. And I think Justice League is going to be a better book because of that. Because you're not going to have to worry about, oh my gosh, Jesse Quick has gone through this big status quo changing thing that now ruins the Justice League. Because I think we've seen that happen to the Justice League in the past, and I think it's something fans want to see moved away from, where we can get to Justice League stories that have major impact, a team that can really have some time together to really gel together. So I'm glad that the purpose of what they're doing storytelling right now is to get a team of heroes together that Robinson can really play with.
Right, and talking about characters that Robinson can play with on the team as well. What about the character he's taking with him from the Superbooks? Which I think is it's going to be interesting, especially after this whole what's happening in the Superman books right now with the war and everything. Where is Supergirl going to play out once this is all said and done? Because it looks like, that is the character. Because Newsarama said Superboy, but I'm pretty sure it is actually Supergirl that's joining the team.
No, he said Supergirl at the DC Entertainment panel.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's Supergirl's joining the team on Justice League. Yeah,
he specifically said that in like a brother-sister type of relationship, he's looking at making Dick Grayson and Supergirl like the new world, like their own kind of world's finest.
Right.
And really showing how the two of them can play off each other very well. It is interesting, I think, to see how these characters are being used. I am wondering probably I'm most interested with Dick Grayson to see where he winds up when all this is said and done with the whole Batman thing.
Right.
Because he's going to continue, no matter what, to be the leader of the Justice League. Robinson said that.
Yeah.
So, and he said specifically, whatever his role is, he is going to be the leader of the Justice League. Which I'm glad to see, because I'm liking him in that capacity. I think he's a natural fit in there. I think he's going to build a team that is interesting, because we're all curious to see Supergirl in there. I'm curious to see Supergirl with Donna Troy.
Yeah.
Because I think that's going to be an interesting relationship of those two working together. We've got a Starman. We've got Congo Bill, or Congo-Rilla. It's going to be an interesting team. And then Jade, Jesse Quick.
And they talked about a cyborg backup. Issues 46, 47, and 48, and even said that he'll have a lead supporting role type deal in there, as well as this backup going on. So I'm kind of curious what's going to happen with Cyborg, because you look at how many of his good friends are on this team. He would have to have some type of role there, just because it wouldn't make any sense for them not to bring him over, because one, he is due and he's ready to be on the JLA, and the whole stuff going on with Teen Titans, he doesn't, I don't want to say he doesn't fit there anymore, but it's like that team is its own separate entity now. They don't need a Cyborg on their team.
It's too big of a team. He needs to leave.
Yeah.
Just because in the sense they've got heavy hitters of their own. Cyborg being on Teen Titans, other than if he's doing a support role, like what we've seen him doing with Red Tornado in the Justice League right now, is I'm assuming going to be his role, where he's going to be doing a lot of cool, gadget style things on there. I think we're going to see. I'm hoping we see Red Tornado. I'm interested to see Red Tornado back. I might be a minority here on this one, but I'm curious to see Red Tornado back on this team.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I've been a Red Tornado fan since his time in Young Justice. So that makes me very happy to see him back again. And on the lines of Young Justice, hopefully we'll get those trades now that Young Justice League is going to be happening soon. But we'll see. But
there's a Young Justice cartoon.
I am very happy to see Red Tornado back.
Do you see the Young Justice cartoon that's coming?
Yeah, that's official.
Yeah, so I would imagine if there's any time to release trades, I would imagine you would do it in line with the cartoon.
That'd be nice.
I certainly hope so. Yeah, it was announced actually at Cartoon Network's Upfronts about 3 weeks back that Young Justice was officially announced, and that it's going to be a part of the Cartoon Network September lineup.
There was a question on this whole thing about Azad and Sam and Lane. Who's going to kneel? And they were both laughing, saying that they would bump heads probably along the way. And Robinson said that Lane's a very clever man, so don't count him out. So I think it's going to be interesting to see the inevitable confrontation between the two of them in this storyline as it goes through. Who do you think is... Do you guys have a preference as far as who you think's the better general, or do you think that the two of them strategically are pretty equal?
I'd say they're pretty equal, but I do give the edge slightly to Zod, if only because while Lane does most of his generaling, at least of late, if generaling is a word, in secret, Zod does it out in the open. And I think that's the major difference there.
Except when you think about it, he's had his little strike squad that's been going on in the background for quite some time. He was doing a lot of sleight of hand stuff. Mm-hmm. If you think about actually his whole relationship with Clark for that whole 12 issues, we found out that he was really telling Clark one thing and doing something completely different. So he was doing his own little devious actions in there. Although I do agree that he prefers to be kind of upfront and in your face, leadership-wise. Do you think, though, that Lane prefers to be hidden, or do you think he's doing it because he has to in this case? I don't know. I mean, I'm actually throwing it out there as a genuine question. What do you guys think?
See, with Lane, he's not really... See, you keep saying he's hidden. I don't think he's hidden at all. He's done his deal very upfront and very open and very public, but there's only one small piece of it what's been public, and that's actually standard military doctrine. You look at what we currently have going on, over in Iraq, Afghanistan. We do have this very public image of what's going on, but the behind-the-scenes stuff we have no clue about, and that's just the way it is with military operations, where you can't, and you for safety of your people, you can't reveal exactly what they're doing and where they're doing it. But the other side is you don't want to give your enemy the advantage. So, Lane is doing a lot of stuff up front, and people can see what he's doing. They see his anti-Kryptonian squads but he's got this everything behind him, just waiting for the time to use it and to strike. I love Zod as a character, but I do think Lane's a better general. But I think both men have the same weakness in that they allow their prejudices to corrupt them and to take them away from their end goal. Both men have the same end goal, where save my people. That's their both same end goal. But it's their hate, like Lane's hatred for Kryptonians, Zod's hatred for the House of El, as well as for humans, are going to cloud them from actually achieving their main goal. It's going to be it's kind of a lose-lose situation for both people. Think about it. If Lane and the human race had done a little bit more in the negotiations and politics with the Kryptonians, we could end up with Earth having multiple people powered like Superman acting as guardians. But they immediately looked to the negative side of this, looked to the side of this. Superman's a fluke in this thing. He's not all Kryptonians are like that. They're going to help him. We have to fight these guys. Same thing with Lane. With Zod. If he had actually embraced some of Clark's ideas about a peaceful negotiation with Earth, New Krypton would still be standing. Who knows what else? How else the Kryptonian people would have prospered from this? There's a lot of stuff that each of these two great generals are going to take massive hits and massive losses because they're allowing their one weakness to cloud their judgment.
You know what I find interesting about this discussion point right here is, and what I think is really showing that these characters are well written right now. Like real people, depending on how you read them or look at them or what your relationship is with them as a reader, you can view them very differently and have justifications for viewing them that way. I think that's a sign of good writing, in the sense that Ian's got like one kind of impression, you've got one kind of impression, yet I don't know, and I've clearly got my own impression, I don't know that it really is a matter of any one of us being right or wrong. I think your well-written three-dimensional characters are ones where you can look at them from a different angle and kind of see them a certain way depending on what your focus is on what they've been doing. Because I've read stories where I've read it over again, and I'll view a character very differently because my attitudes or my focus on a certain type of action that they're doing in it is more prevalent and more in my face. So then I'm viewing that character in a completely different fashion, where I may have hated them the first time through. The second time through, I enjoy them. Or, I respect them in a different way, or I dislike them again, but for a different reason. And I think that, to me, is a sign of characters that have been well fleshed out and are consistent by the team that's writing them, because the characters should feel like they're alive and breathing and three-dimensional, and depending on your focus, you should view them. I think you can view them slightly differently. Look at we've had adamant Superman discussions where it's the same character that's been around for how long, yet there are clear points where you and I view him very differently on certain things. And yet, I don't know if it's a right or wrong thing as much as just as what we've focused on as far as actions that he's taken in the past.
Mm-hmm.
I think
there's actually only one way to solve any of these questions and answers that we have right here.
A cage, right?
A cage or arm wrestling contest. Red Sun, do it.
Oh, there you go. All right. Yeah. Who?
Hold on, let's throw that out there. Depowered Zod versus General Lane, 1-on-1. My money goes hands down to Zod.
He went toe-to-toe with Brainiac depowered.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Although Lane...
Now, Lane...
I think we're going to see... Robinson was hinting at that we're going to see moments from Lane where... I'm wondering, like, if we're going to say the same thing with the next 3 issues of this War of the Supermen storyline. Because Robinson was really hinting at that there's more to come from Lane. Because remember, we're just seeing the opening salvo now. Right. We haven't seen Earth. Yeah. There's... I mean, look what Lane did. I think we're discounting here. Lane put Luthor and Reactron in a spot where they blew up an entire planet. Lane is a devious son of a gun. Yeah.
And that's why, I'm not, the whole thing, who will kneel to who, you can't count the man out. But I'm talking like a physical, fist fight between the two of them. I got to go with Zod.
Yeah, I'll go with Zod, but I could see Lane bringing a gun to an arm wrestling fight and very well changing the outcome.
And that to me is smart. No, it really is. I mean, when you're talking about a military leader, it's not always about fighting fair. It's about your goal as a general is to make sure your troops win with a minimal amount of casualties. So I don't know. I want to say Zod. I'm with you in the sense, Jim, that I want to say Zod based on what I've seen so far, but it was Robinson's comments about Lane with the kneeling thing that made me realize that dude's going to do something in this 100-minute war with Lane where I might have a whole different attitude when it's all said and done.
Well, in this war, it's going to be interesting. That is, I want to see what the two do to each other, because they kept saying multiple times that there's going to be plenty of oh my god kind of moments, and they really get nasty. And this is... I think we're going to have a high body count on both ends, and I'm very, very, very curious as to what's going to happen these next, 3 weeks.
They talked about the Hawks real quick, because they did this like Q&A session at the end where they're just throwing out the blast little things, and they said that they're going to be in Brightest Day right now, because people were asking if they're going to be a part of the JSA team, and right now it's all about Brightest Day. They seem to hint at that would happen in the future. I'm curious to see, though, where there's so much going on with them in Brightest Day right now. I'm very excited for that. Who out of these Brightest Day characters, let's kind of... Ian, are you reading Brightest Day right now?
I read issue 0. I've yet to read issue 1. That's coming in my next shipment.
I don't want to ruin issue 1 for you then. Just out of the characters you've seen in issue 0 then, and the characters that we know that have come back out of the 12, where do you want to see these people land? Do you want to see them like back on a team book? Do you want to see them in solo series? Are there any of these characters that you want to see vanish again after all this is said and done? Because 12 characters have come back.
Right.
What do you guys have any preferences for any of them and what you want to see out of them?
Well, I'd like Aquaman because no matter what you do to Aquaman, I still kind of can't see him carrying his own his own series with just him and Mira and the Atlanteans in it. It would be fun for a few issues, and then I think it would fall into the same trap that Aquaman usually does, where we'd get too much of the same, and that would be that. So I'd actually prefer to see Aquaman back on the JLA within the next year, because I think being their like underwater general or being their underwater assistance man and on top is more where I like to see Aquaman than in his own solo book. So him, I definitely want to see in team book versus a solo book. The Hawks, I can see in their own ongoing very easily because they've done it before. It lasted a long time. Most of those issues were good. I'd like to see that. Before that happens, however, I want to know what happened to Kendra. I want to know whether or not she's just absorbed into Shiera or whether or not she's still out there somewhere in the netherworld or whatever. Because I'm kind of not happy with Kendra just being a part of Shiera. You know, because I think that was a character that got fleshed out way too much to just be a part of the quote unquote new Hawk Girl / Hawk Woman.
If you take a look at what Johns did and then Gray and Palmiotti, though, when they did those issues where they were focusing on past lives of the Hawks, they had different personalities in their past lives.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you saw the Western version of them, while you know, you clearly saw that they were reincarnations of the same characters, there were distinct personality differences in those characters. They were attracted, you know, that fit their era. So it does fit that Kendra was a past life of Shiera. My concern, even more so than what you're talking about, is that we get to see her access those memories. Like, I'm curious to see if Shiera encounters Roy. Is there going to be, if Kendra is a past life, if we're going off of that, is there going to be an acknowledgement that she had a relationship with Roy? Is she going to address that? Or, like you said, Ian, is Kendra a completely separate life where Shiera wouldn't have had that relationship with Roy? I'm taking it right now, and I don't know, you guys can correct me if you are taking it differently, or, you know, if you guys feel that this hasn't been fleshed out enough yet. I'm taking it as they're saying that Kendra was a past life of Shiera's now, and that memories would be there for her to, if she did encounter Roy, there would be that part of her with Leon where this would bother her. There would be...
See, I much more prefer, because the original storyline of Kendra is that Kendra was her own person and then wound up infused with Shiera when she tried to take her own life. That's the original story. So I more believe that the reason Shiera remembers being Kendra was because she was a part of Kendra. They were a part of the same person. However, they were still two distinct people. So that's why I think Shiera might still have those memories, but not necessarily be Kendra. If you know what I mean.
I agree with you up until the way that things were going before they died. If you look at before they died, if you look at the history of the Hawks, it's the two of them are apart when they start their new lives. Then they're eventually drawn together, and that's the cycle that they're trapped in. If you look at what happened in Blackest Night, the two of them were together. They had finally come together in those last moments. And it was a tragic ending, a tragic love ending between the two of them. So I could see it the way you're saying, Ian. So I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm saying I can see the other possibility now that Kendra is a part of that lifespan now, where at the end of her life, it turns out that just through that tragedy and everything like that, she wound up being Shiera. She wound up being, another incarnation of them. Because they had different names in their lives as they went along. Were like nods to them. So I don't know. I could see that going either way. I wouldn't be disappointed in either case. Like if it does turn out that Kendra Saunders was in fact a separate person and a separate personality, and we're going to find that out, I'd be happy with that. I'm with you in the sense that, and it does sound like, just from the way we're even talking, there needs to be some clarification. I can't imagine us not getting it.
Here's the funny thing. I'm really just sitting back here going, I really don't care. I really? Seriously, I am becoming a Hawkman fan. I do get the whole character and why you think he's so awesome, and I'm agreeing with you in his awesomeness. And I do like the whole, the love story, the tragic love story, the two connected. But for me, and maybe it's because I don't have such a strong connection to either character. I could care to, whatnot, CL with.
Ian clearly read a lot of the same stuff I did.
So you guys have a much more richer history with these characters. But for me coming in, I'm like, oh, okay, if they give me an explanation, cool. If they don't, I'm not going to lose a moment's sleep on it. I'm going to keep going forward with what the stories I'm getting. To
a certain extent, I'll agree with you in the sense that I don't care which way it goes, but I'm with Ian that I want to see some clarification as far as what it is.
Yeah, well, the way I feel about Kendra is the same way that I feel about Kyle Rayner and Connor Hawke that she was, at least to me, the next generation. That she was the next part of the legacy of the character. Not necessarily that she was, Shayera's reincarnation, but that she was the next version of Hawkgirl. And I'd much rather there still be her out there somewhere than them just killing her off, because in essence, to me, that gets rid of the next step in the legacy.
You're having the same thing that a lot of the Silver Age Space Cop fans are having, in the sense that they prefer him to be the alien versus, going to the Golden Age route.
Right.
Which Johns went all the way back to the Golden Age, and that's the version that we're seeing right now. Mm-hmm. And he found a neat way to fit all that in. The Hawk World version, for example, also we have the Qatar Hall from that, which is it was supposed to be like in a pre-Silver Age origin of it, but it was so popular they launched it into a series, so we had a different Hawkman there, which Johns kind of neatly put all those together. And you can argue how neatly it was done. I thought it was a very clever way to take a whole mess that you could never really 110% clean up,
but he can
and make it all work. Where like you can say your Hawkmans all happened. They were all here. Here we go. We got this reincarnation thing that does go back to the Golden Age and goes back to the original concept, which I love that he did that, because to me, you take something that was a mess and you go back to the core roots of the character and say, but look what was said when they originally created this character. He was a reincarnation of this Egyptian guy. We can bring this back in with this whole hat set thing, and it actually fixes all that, where any of you who liked any version of Hawkman, this is that guy. And that was a clever way to do that. I guess what I'm saying, Ian, being that it's Johns that's writing Brightest Day right now, I guess I'm taking it as this is that girl.
Right.
If you follow me. And I might be wrong on that, because we haven't seen 100% clarification of that. But I guess because that's what he did with Carter, I'm assuming that's what he's doing with Shayera and Kendra. Assuming. I would love to see her with Roy, because I think that's going to be the dead giveaway.
Yes.
If Shayera is reacting to Roy as, I'm from the Satellite Justice League, I knew, we were, Green Arrow, we know that relationship, we know you from when you were Speedy, and that's the way she's coming at it, not from the fact that they had a relationship, then we have some clarification that no, Kendra's not in there.
Yeah.
Right.
On the other hand, if she reacts at it as, I had a very personal relationship with Leon, and this bothered me, I want to see it. I do want to see that now, because to me the Leon thing is very interesting with regards to Hawk Woman or Hawk Girl.
I'm trying to remember if that funeral scene from the Rise of Red Arrow, if the Hawks were at that funeral scene, and I can't remember off the top of my head.
Ooh, that's a good question. I just read that a few days ago myself, and I can't actually remember where they were.
And I think that would be, in a way, it would be a kind of an indicator. But even that, even if they're there, they're going to be there anyway, whether she remembers him or not. Just because of the whole superhero type universe, when you have those big funerals, you got to show up and you got to be there, and you got to make a presence. So, on one hand, it probably, I don't know how much that'll give us information, but I do wonder about that, because this is something about this character that it's funny, because I've sitting there and I'm saying I really don't care. You guys are so passionate about it, but the more I'm hearing you guys talk, the more you're going into it. I'm like, yeah, I'd kind of like to know that too. I'm with you guys. You're getting me kind of converted into what's going on here kind of deals.
No, it doesn't look like any of the 12 were there.
Okay,
all right, yeah, because they're off doing their own thing. Yeah,
I don't see any of the other. Like Hal's there, but I don't see any of the 12 there for that event.
Okay.
So, no, I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah. And just to finish your initial question, just to roll back to that real quick, Firestorm I'd like to see wind up on the Teen Titans. I think that the way that Ronnie has been acting since he got back, I think he needs a little bit of growing up to do, and I think that the Teen Titans might actually be a good place for him to be, even if he's not necessarily a teen. There have been plenty of Teen Titans that were on the team that weren't actually teens. So I could see him fitting into that role pretty well there. And as for the rest, let's see, Deadman, If he does wind up being Dead Man again, if he's no longer a Live Man once Brightest Day is done, and I freaking love a Live Man.
Yeah,
I do too.
That's a good call.
But I'd actually kind of like to see an ongoing with Dead Man, written by Palmiotti and Gray. I think that would be a great fit for Dead Man.
Have we heard anything about them post Power Girl?
Not yet. They said that they had something else doing. I think it might be something creator owned. But I not any specifics yet.
Because they did a series through IDW that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm curious to see, what I'm hoping they've got another DC series in the work, because I've loved their DC work.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So,
I also enjoyed their Marvel work for the short time that they were there. So, I mean, really, whatever they do, it usually turns out well.
They're a creative team I'll follow. Because I followed them to IDW and read their stuff there. Followed D. So I mean, it's funny how there's a number of creators now who I'm following no matter what they do, just because I know that I'm going to get a good delivery of storytelling.
Now, I tell you, one thing I'm wondering: Martian Manhunter. What's going to happen with him? Because where's he going to land? Is he going to land on the JLA? Is he going to be solo? Is he not even going to be around anymore? Are they going to re-kill him off or? That's the thing. I'm kind of curious about what they're going to do with him.
Oh, I think
you can't re-kill him off. No,
I think with that whole Mars hint, with the fact that he's not the last Martian, that type of thing, or he's not going to be the last Martian. That there is something to be done there. I think there's big things planned for him. I think.
Yeah, I'd like that. I'd agree with you. I'd like to see that. But I am curious what's going to... He's the character that I'm the most curious about, wondering where's he going to be, what's his place going to be.
Yeah, I do think that there's big things afoot for him. Do you guys think that there's anybody from the 12 that's going to vanish again? Or do you guys think that these characters are back and they're going to stay back post this? Is there anybody that you see as...
And it's funny because I don't want to see this happen, but... part of me wonders about Aquaman. I'm really starting to wonder if he's going to still be around, if this isn't going to be a way to do more with Mira. Because Mira really came out of Blackest Night looking really good. And people are like, yeah, I really like this character. But, initially starting her off, they couldn't really probably just start her off right out of there. So they're going to use Brightest Day, her interactions with, Arthur to maybe, raise her status up and do something with her and re-kill him off.
If they do another Aquaman series, let's say they go that route, or do a series of mini-series with him, kind of what they did with the Space Heroes for a while, whatever route they tend to go with that, I would read a new Aquaman series, actually. I'm interested enough in his underwater world that I want to do that. Here's the funny thing. When Ian said that he'd like to see Aquaman on the Justice League, I'd actually like to see Mira on the Justice League. I think she would be interesting with her power set.
Yeah.
It just is something a little different than what you would expect from a traditional... Because of her magic, based powers with the stuff that she does, I think she would be an interesting team member both in and out of the water, because we've seen her take on a very interesting role during Blackest Night, where she's been very effective. So I think she would be an interesting addition to the Justice League, where if they're going to go that route and bring in that archetype of character... This is the funny part. I think we could load up both the Justice League and the Teen Titans with a lot of characters right now. Because Teen Titans is a very big team right now, which is why I do think, like Cyborg, I think it's pretty much so a foregone conclusion he will not be on that team, because I don't know how many more people you can put on Teen Titans at the moment.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing, and this is not a negative comment towards anybody, but I do wonder if they could how well the Justice League would do numbers-wise and sales-wise if they had a team that was mostly made up of female superheroes. Because you look at it, they got Jessie Quick, Supergirl already, Donna Troy, so we got 3 right there. If we added Mira onto there, there would be a very large number of female superheroes, and would the traditional classic, would the regular mainstream JLA fans want that book?
You're making an interesting point.
It's a good question, especially if you throw Jade into the mix.
Oh yeah, Jade too. She's going to definitely be on the team. So that would be 5 females. Now I would get the book because I think those are interesting characters, and I would be curious to see how they did it and what the interactions, kind of what the deal would be, the team dynamic would be. Would your regular everyday comic book goer want that?
depends on how much effect that it has. Because Robinson's hinting that he's got 4 years of major stories going on. I will say that what you just said to me, though, has got me convinced that we're not going to see... We wouldn't see, like, Mira on the team. We would probably be more likely to see Arthur. Except Robinson already said that he's got a set team that's planned that's going to be put in place post all of this. And I think we've seen the players already. I think these players that we've just talked about are the ones that are going to be the set team. But then he's hinted at that he's going back to like a reservist concept where you're going to have a lot of guest stars. Animal Man's going to be one of them coming up quite soon. I think it was issue 49, he said.
Yeah, 49.
So I think if we see like an Aquaman or a Mira in the book, it's going to be in a guest star capacity versus being an actual team member. And I actually think that that's better for the Justice League book to pull from that's where you could see a Firestorm guest star. You could see there's a lot of characters that can then guest star for arcs or for individual issues. And I think that is you're talking about sales. I think that will help the book because people will be like, okay, I've got this core team that I can really get behind. And there is a clever choice of, again, I'm going back to the clever choice of characters who do not have a solo series. I think that's really important that the team is made up of a lot of those characters so he can really mess with those characters and really have fun with them. That to me is, I think that's a route that you need to go now because there's too much restrictions then. Like if you put a Bruce, let's say Bruce comes back, which we all know is going to happen. I don't know that you necessarily need to see Bruce and Clark and Diana in there, other than if they guest star.
Right.
I think let them have their big events in their books and make the Justice League a go-to book for a lot of these characters. This isn't going to be popular. If Bruce comes back as Batman, I want to see a lot of the big Dick Grayson stories happen in Justice League. I want then let Robinson really do stuff with him as the leader of the Justice League. Romantic entanglements, things like that with Dick Grayson, all come out of the Justice League book. That to me makes the team. Why did Teen Titans work when Wolfman and Perez were doing it? At the time, your Dick Grayson storytelling was actually happening unless it crossed over with Batman. Your Dick Grayson big events were all happening in Teen Titans. Mm-hmm. He works in a team book in that capacity where, whatever costume he's wearing in Justice League, if Bruce is coming back to the main Bat books, wow, Dick Grayson, and that might not be popular. People are really digging him as Batman. Because I am digging him as Batman. But I'm saying if Bruce is coming back to don the mantle, and Dick is going to be either Batman, another Batman, or he's going to be Nightwing again, or some other role.
Another hero name.
Yeah. I think he's going to be the day Batman, while Bruce Wayne is the night Batman. He's going to be the Batman that's the public face with the Justice League, while Bruce does all the covert night stuff that he's so good at. I think that's what they're going to wind up doing. Both of them are going to remain Batman. And they're just going to be different facets of the character.
See, I would actually like that. I personally think I would dig that. Having both of them in the mantles, both of them doing their thing, and as you said, the main Dick Grayson stories we tell in Justice League, the Batman stories, or actually do Dick Grayson stories you tell them in Batman and Robin and the Justice League. And then you do Bruce Wayne stories in Batman and Detective.
Does Donna Troy have to be Wonder Woman to be interesting?
No.
Dick Grayson, to me, as a character, he doesn't have to be Batman. I guess that's kind of, to me...
But he is Batman, and that's it.
He's Batman.
Donna has only been Wonder Woman for a short period of time.
Hold on a second.
And never on a team.
Why is he Batman? He's Batman because Bruce is, quote-unquote, dead. And he's been living that life because Bruce isn't there. Will he still want to be Batman if Bruce is back? Will he want that? Or will he want his own identity? He left Robin because he became Nightwing, mainly because when he left Batman's cave, he wanted his own life. He adopted that role. To me, Nightwing he's that role... That identity of a character is something that's so strongly established that I think we're discounting, to me, the important... I think Nightwing fans out there are going to agree with me on this. The importance of the Nightwing character and that Nightwing concept, that's Dick Grayson. He created that. And I think he got out of the shadow of the bat with that concept. I do.
And here's the thing. I'm not going to argue with you on that point. I would like seeing him as Nightwing. I'd like seeing him as Batman. Or if they create even a third character, I would still follow it. But if they're going to do if they're going to do, if they don't want to take Dick out of the mantle, I would rather they do that. Do that two people wearing the mantle, and do that kind of style where night and day, just the different personalities, and even
I don't want that.
See, I don't think I'd hate it. I honestly think.
I don't think I'd hate it. I don't think though that. See, to me, Batman's a concept where I do think there needs to be one Batman, one person wearing the mantle. I do. I don't think it's like the Flash or Green Lanterns. It's like Superman. I don't want to see two Supermen. I liked when Mon-El was taking over as kind of the Superman down there. I don't even care if he would have worn Clark's costume, because Clark wasn't wearing it. But I think when Clark inevitably came back, Clark would need to take over that role again. And I liked how Mon-El, we saw when Mon-El went back, he stopped adopting that role right away. He went back to being Mon-El. That was passing the torch back to Clark. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense to you.
Oh, yeah.
I think Batman's a similar role. Wonder Woman's a similar role, where I think that there's one Wonder Woman, there's one Batman. Now, if Bruce were to retire, for example, and do kind of like what they've done with Batman Beyond, where he's kind of an advisor to Dick Grayson, I don't know that we need that with Alfred, though. But, I mean, if they were to go that route with it, I would be very happy with Dick. I like Dick Grayson as Batman, so let me clarify that. I do think this is working. I've loved the series so far, Batman and Robin. I think it's compelling. But I also liked what Morrison was doing with Bruce Wayne, and I found that just as compelling. So I'm not sitting here going, oh my gosh, it's the second coming of Batman, it's all of a sudden great now. It was great before it was Dick Grayson. I think this is just another chapter in the story that Morrison's been telling. I don't take it as Dick Grayson, yes, replacement. Could he be? Sure. And I would gladly go along for that ride if that's the route they're going. So would that be something I'd be fine with? Yes. I am not a fan of the idea of more than one Batman. I don't think it's necessary. I think one gets diminished. Look what's happening with Wally West and Barry. Do we need necessarily every DC character to have more than one of these? If we have two Batman, one of them is going to take a backseat to the other. I don't think Dick Grayson is a character that needs to take a backseat to anybody. I want to see him in his own role with his own prominent spot in the universe. If it's not being the sole Batman, I would like him to be the sole Nightwing, and I would like to see him leader of the Justice League, where he's in this very prominent role, not being Batman to the day Batman. I think he's more than that. I think he should be the day and night Nightwing, where he can be wherever the heck he wants to be, doing whatever the heck he wants to anytime, because he's that darn good of a character. So, I mean, I guess that's my dispute on what you're saying. Not that he can't hack the role of Batman, because I would be happy with him taking over if it was permanent that way. I don't think any of us are thinking that's permanent.
No.
Bruce is coming back, and Bruce is going to be a Batman.
Yes.
I don't want to. I really don't. I don't see the sense in it. For a little bit, maybe, if there's a storytelling reason. I think Dick Grayson's more than that, though. I do.
Okay. And here's the thing, it's not even...
And you guys can completely disagree with me, too, please. It's not a matter of winning. I'm just kind of airing my opinion. This is where I'm at. And there's a lot of people who want to see, like, Dick Grayson stay Batman. There's a lot of people who agree with you, Jim, and want to see, and maybe Ian does, too. I'm kind of rambling on here at the moment. But there's a lot of people who would adamantly agree with you that the idea of multiple Batman... I've seen a lot of people talk about this. So you're not alone in that concept, and I don't want to portray that there are. My opinion, though, is Dick Grayson is a character. I love this character. I grew up with Dick Grayson. He was Robin, and I saw this kid grow out of being Bruce's second and become something more. And to me, anything that does not give him his own role is diminishing that something more. I love Barry being back, Barry Allen, but I think I get the people that get up at cons and say, but what about Wally West? And I think we're going to have a but what about Dick Grayson if we bring back Bruce and make Dick Grayson Batman 2.
Okay, but now along those lines, and again, I'm not agreeing or disagreeing with you, because really, as long as Dick Grayson doesn't take one to the back of the chest, I'm fine. Mm-hmm. As long as there's a Dick Grayson in the DC universe, I'm good. What about Tim? Because Red Robin right now is a character that's on a mission. And that's the whole reason he's wearing the Red Robin suit, is to quote-unquote punish himself.
Did you read Red Robin 12?
I haven't read Red Robin 12.
Read Red Robin number 12. It completely. I know where you're going with this.
Yeah.
You've got to. Jim, will you agree with me on this?
I completely co-sign with what you're saying, Norge.
You're Ian. You're 100 for the first 11 issues of Red Robin. Ian, you are 110% correct with where you're going with this. Read Red Robin. I don't want to spoil anything for you, ruin anything for you. Read Red Robin number 12, and you will. And here, do this for me.
Yeah.
If you read Red Robin number 12, and you disagree with what I just said, say, dude, let's Skype in and let's have another chat about this because we'll continue this. I don't want to say anything that's going to ruin that issue for you. Read it, and I think that might change your mind. If it doesn't, though, let's continue this particular debate because I think issue 12 of that, for me, has totally convinced me of something, and I don't want to say anything more because
I really don't want to spoil this.
I really feel like I'm going to ruin a moment for you that I think you will enjoy reading on the page.
All right, that's cool with me. That's cool with me. Yeah,
but,
I mean, it's sitting there in my pile. It'll probably be read within the next 3 days anyway.
Yeah.
So
it is. It's one I would recommend for just the fact that you're emotionally kind of we're going in that direction anyway. I think it was very cool where you were going. Reading 1 through 11, I would have agreed with you, and I think it would have been a very interesting debate. After issue 12, I am in a completely different place. And I think it's.
Is that Yas's last issue, by the way, or is that 13?
I think it is his last issue.
That is his last
I don't
issue.
know.
Okay,
if not,
then Nicieza after that.
I think
so.
Okay.
If not, they're clearly setting up for if he has one more issue number 13. I do think I'm getting the impression with these Bat books, the first 12 issues of all of them were meant to be kind of like the first year of this Batman Reborn.
Yeah,
right.
And then they probably set up because he's doing so much over in Marvel. I don't know how he was juggling doing such a good job on Red Robin over here.
Well, he's leaving New Mutants. Excuse me, not New Mutants. X-Force over at Marvel too. So he must be doing something new somewhere. But
he's becoming a writer very quickly that I'm enjoying following because it seems everything that he's touching too. Like X-Force is a great example of a book that's Red Robin. Those titles are really good.
No question. This is, and I mean, I'm about as adamant about my Tim Drake as Jim is. This is the best Tim Drake I've read since Beecham, by far. For me, this is the best Tim Drake that I've read since those 1 year later issues with Freddie on the book and everything. This is the best I've read since then.
It's funny because in a way, yes, I agree with that statement, but I really did like Nicieza and Freddie together. I liked that Tim they did. I can't really say it's better than those things, than those issues, because I
think they built to this though, and I think this matters because of the groundwork was so solid, and that's
so
what they were supposed to do.
This is like it feels like it was a continuation of where that left off. When the creative team changed, we got this different Tim Drake, but it was a Tim Drake that we understood why he was that way because of the previous stuff. So for me, the Beecham, Nicieza, Yost, and now going back to Nicieza, I think that's all just this wonderful Tim Drake run of who the character is, and I think it's for me it's very hard to pick out this is better than that.
Read issue 12. I just got to say that.
I agree wholeheartedly on the Nicieza as well, because Nicieza is a creator that I've always felt doesn't get nearly enough credit.
Agreed.
Because of the X-Men stuff he's done, of the Cable Deadpool. If not for him, right now the Marvel Universe would not have Deadpool where he is. Because he is the creator that brought him back. And after that, they were able to do what he did there. And for all the Batman fill-in stuff that he did, for all the Robin continuations that he did, he's done an exceptional job. And I want to see him get the credit that he deserves.
Asriel, and he's leaving that book to go back to Robin. I don't know why. I'd love to know, be a fly on the wall, and know why that's happening. Because I don't know why he couldn't do both books. Because I love his Asriel. I mean, I'm excited for the new writer taking over. I think it's going to be cool. But Asriel, I think, has been outstanding with him writing it, and seeing him on Red Robin now is. I think that's going to be very interesting.
Yes.
I'm very curious to see where this whole universe goes. It is interesting to me right now, though. We're setting up a potential situation where Tim Drake could become the Nightwing of the Batman world.
Mm-hmm.
Batman and Damian could be Bruce Wayne and Robin. Batman and Robin. Those two.
Yeah.
And Dick Grayson could be as Nightwing, the leader of the Justice League. Where I think with Tim Drake filling the Nightwing role, and I'm speculating, so please don't take anybody listening to this, don't take this as I'm seeing a situation there where I'm looking at him like that could be very interesting with that kind of lineup. And it would give then Robinson free reign with the entire Justice League.
Yeah.
To really take that team to places that we haven't seen in a long time with the Justice League. We've seen big Justice League arcs, but I'm talking about a big, huge Justice League run. Because he said he's got 4 years of stories in him. And it was funny watching him and Willingham, where Willingham was saying, well, I've got 6 years of Justice stories. But I do think the Justice League is a team that needs a writer to give us big, epic, ongoing stories with characters that we can follow and get behind. It's the Justice League, for guys. Yeah. I mean, that should be a team where we're like, wow.
DC is hopefully learning from their previous mistakes because even though McDuffie had some great issues in there, every 3 issues the team changed. Due to whether it be because of editorial mandate, whether it be because he was told, this specific writer has this character, you can't use him right now.
That's what I think the problem is,
and things kept going all over the place. With Robinson, it looks like he's going to have a base. And that's what you need in order to tell a cohesive story. You can't change the characters every 5 issues. You got to have something straight. And I think that's what Robinson's getting now. I mean, yeah, the original team that he started with isn't necessarily the team that he's going to have now. But so what? Because those first couple of issues were setup issues. Now that he's telling his big story, Robinson's going to have a set team, and JOA is hopefully going to become the premier team book that it should be. In the DC universe.
And I hope they don't fall into the trap if we start seeing gangbuster sales numbers from Justice League and it gets real popular, where we feel like we have to have every Justice League member spin off into a solo series, because that's the trap. Once these characters get into solo series, you can't play with them in the team book. And to me, that's where the team book gets interesting, where you see interpersonal relationships with these characters that can happen on screen in that book. Justice League, I want to see relationships between the team members. I want to see, or between supporting characters who come into the book, and the main team members, where those relationships play out in Justice League. It's not just about the big epic Justice League battles. It's about good character drama that's being built. Interpersonal relationships where some of the characters get along, some of them don't. Some of them rub each other the wrong way. And those are stuff that I want to see in Justice League. I want to see that happen there. It doesn't have to be, I have to read this solo title to get that from that character. Nothing wrong with that, but you're talking about the trap that McDuffie fell. I think that's a lot of what happened during his run, was that, big event A happened and this character now is off the table. Well, that derails that book.
Yeah.
Where I'm excited for JLA, JSA crossover coming up, because these characters are all going to be heavily played within that book. And I want that. That's what the team book should be. DC's got so many characters that really you can take characters and earmark them for the team book, have them, make appearances in the solo titles and that type of thing, but their main events can happen in the team book. There's too many characters that we're saying right now, it'd be great if they were on Teen Titans, great if they were on Justice League. They can't handle their own book. Fine. Put them on the team and then play with them there. And I like that direction. Why is Secret Six my favorite book right now? Because I don't have to worry about, I know that anything that's going to horribly happen to those characters is going to happen in Secret Six.
Yeah.
And I'm loving that every issue, I don't know what drama they're going to be thrown through next, but doggone it, when it's going to happen in there, it's going to be nasty. That's what's got me glued to that book. I don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, that character got destroyed in this event. And I won't see them again.
Yeah, and that's why I'm happy to see Hawk and Dove on Birds of Prey.
Agreed.
Because if they would have given them their own series, this isn't knocking the characters or anything. It would have gotten canceled in 8. It would have just not caught on, because Hawk and Dove have had that history where they've never really lasted that long in a solo book because they just don't have – they have fan appeal but not enough to continue on past like 8 or 9 issues.
There's nothing wrong with being a character that works well in teams.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's if the character, there's a lot of great characters that if they're on the team, they're even better because they add a little more, one more little piece to the team. So it's individuals, strong individuals making up a stronger team. You don't need just epic people on there. You could just yeah.
Well, and how about we bring this back to the panel here, where at the end of the panel, Sattler threw out readers what they like to see. Series that they would like to see, characters that get their own series. And I think one of the happy ones, I screamed out Superboy, and he said soon, which is probably the closest I've come in recent memory to anybody saying that there would be a solo Superboy series again, because with all the litigation and with all the craziness that's been happening with the character, we weren't going to see him outside of a team book. But now maybe, just maybe, Superboy might actually be back in that realm again.
How cool was Adventure Comics with him?
Yeah, oh, it was great. Yeah,
I mean, it was a gorgeous book. It was very well written. He made great use of the character, and I liked seeing him on the Kent farm. I thought that was just a great setting for the character, and having him go to school and kind of just living what would be like a teenage lifestyle. I was great to see him. That's what I mean. Those are moments that I want to see from those characters. And Teen Titans right now, he could technically work on Teen Titans and have his own solo book because they got 72 million characters on the Teen Titans right now, and you could still focus and spotlight and have his relationship with Wonder Girl play out in that book.
Oh, sure. Yeah, and could Flash? They had mentioned. I forget if it was at this panel or if it was at the Flash Green Lantern panel that they mentioned that Bart's going to be moving to San Francisco. That's going to be his home city. Right. He's not just going to be coming in on weekends. That's going to be his home city. So that's when they eventually do the Kid Flash ongoing. That's where it's going to take place.
And they kind of played around with that back when Bart was Flash.
Right.
Yeah, with him moving.
Yeah. And I want to clarify something because I've made a couple little jokes about Teen Titans team size. I've got to be honest with you. I like what Felicia Henderson's doing with Teen Titans right now because I think she's building us to a core team again. We're going back to Ian was talking earlier about some of the mistakes DC's making. Teen Titans was going through a whole lot of turmoil for a while there, where we were killing off characters, and it was getting hard to get behind the core team because the core team was in turmoil all the time, and we didn't really have what was the core team. You didn't have a lot of confidence in who the core team was because we had new members popping in, and it was very hard, with the deaths of and Tim leaving and stuff like that. The core characters that we were following on that book were gone. We had a whole bunch of new members again, and it was very hard to have any confidence in who was going to stick around. And I think now we're starting to get back to the band's getting back together. We have some new members on the team as well, like Static I want to see stay. Yes. We're getting a team back again, and I think she's doing a really good job with that book. I thought the recent issues of that has really shown that she understands what makes these characters cool. I loved the Kid Flash moment where he had to make the decision to what he was going to do, and the way he accepted membership. I just think I'm glad to see the team books in DC focus on. I like the Titans is going to be kind of its own entity and not necessarily trying to force these characters from Wolfman and Perez back together again, because it's clear when they've been trying to shove them back together in that fashion, it isn't working. I like that they took a few of them and put the ones that made sense in Justice League. We've got Starfire off in Rebels. This kind of makes more sense. I like what they're doing with Cyborg. This makes sense. We've got a couple of the classic members on the Teen Titans team right now. I'm assuming Beast Boy and Raven are going to stick.
That's how I'm reading it.
What do you guys think about the Titans book that's coming up with Deathstroke? This more of a villains for hire thing. Are you guys excited for that? Are you on the fence? Where are you at?
I'm waiting for trade. To be honest, because to me, and not knocking the idea or anything, it's been done. It's a idea that both DC and Marvel have tried multiple times, and it works for a while, and then it gets stale. So if I hear really good things after 6 issues, maybe I'll give it the trade a read, either out of the library or see if I can pick it up for cheap and just go from there. Because I stopped picking up the previous Titans series. I mean, yeah, that was totally different. Of course, that was the original Titans back together and everything. After about 9 or 10 issues, because it just wasn't working for me. So for now, I'm gonna skip it for now. But hey, if I hear you guys talking about it, well, that might very well get me to pick it up in the future.
What about you? Are you?
I'm in for it. I've already.
What is exciting you about it?
Well,
are you excited about it, or are you just in and not quite sure yet?
It's weird. I'm excited, but I'm not as jazzed as say Birds of Prey. Like Birds of Prey, I am just like over that returning.
But that's a group of characters getting back to is a good thing or I don't know.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing. That's like energy.
That's trying to understand your.
It's just that's
like
positive,
a happy sound.
That's a positive energy that just wants to erupt from my chest. Like
Should I get a garbage bag or something?
No. I'll contain it.
Whoa. Do you two need personal time? Because
No, I don't. I'm thinking more like a Gallagher concert where I want to put up a garbage bag and make sure that it doesn't get on me. Honey, what happened? Why do you need a shower? Jim went
But it's a good thing you didn't go arr.
Yeah, I don't know what that means either. But
no, but there is an excitement because I do like Deathstroke so much. I think he's a great character. And so that's where that's my excitement right now, is towards seeing what they're going to do with him.
Tattooed Man, Cheshire, and Osiris have me interested in that book.
Yeah.
Those are characters that because I know Osiris, I don't know if he's going to be on the team or if he's going to be the first one that hires them. But Tattooed Man has been a character that I liked his series, Inc. I enjoyed the character there. I liked what they were doing with him in Final Crisis. So he's a character that I've become very interested in. Yeah. I hope that his family, or the aspect that he has one, isn't completely 100% dropped because he's in this book. Because I think in that book, that playing in on some level is interesting to me. I like the characters. I hope we don't lose what made him an interesting character on the team. If we keep elements of that in there, I think this book has a potential. Cheshire, with what she's gone through, I hope that's not all just kind of brushed aside. I hope that's a part of the core of what's driving her.
She's had some rough times recently, so kind of curious to see if we get her anger output, towards just the way society has treated her.
And that's where these events become interesting to me then, because we've got these characters who've gone through some interesting things over the past couple years, and if you don't make that a part of what drives them in this series, you're dropping the ball. So it's kind of funny because we haven't seen the one shot yet, because there's the one shot and then it goes into the series. I'm very curious to see. I'm excited, depending on how they play these characters. If they're played at what we've seen from them the past couple years, this could be a sleeper, where it's all of a sudden like, whoa, this came from out of nowhere and I didn't expect it. Or it could be what Ian said, something we've seen before, and then we're not getting anything. So I am excited. I'm tentatively excited. And I haven't actually seen the book I'm excited with the setup. So I want to see how it plays.
The thing with Tattoo Man is this is the same writer who did Ink, right?
Yeah, so that's why I'm excited.
I'm thinking we're going to get that same character that we had in Ink into this. So that would mean there would have to be some family stuff. There would have to be some of his personal outside of the Tattoo Man stuff,
That's why that was the first character, even more than Deathstroke is what my point is. I'm excited for him because I've seen what this writer's done with that character and I liked it.
Okay.
So, if that writer keeps spinning in the same direction that he's been going with characters like that, I'm excited for a team that has characters that aren't in other books, because this writer can play around with them, and I like what he did with Ink. So let's go with it and see what he does. And I hope we get something different. I know where Ian's going with this, and I'm hoping we get that sleeper hit where it's kind of. I'm drawing a blank at a moment. What was the evil team in? Busiek wrote it. Evil team that was superheroes in. Yes, Thunderbolts. Thunderbolts was a great example of a book that came. I remember when that first came out. I remember reading that's the initial series of that. I'm not knocking anything that came later, but I remember when that came out, it blew me away. It was just kind of like nothing at all that I expected from it, and it wound up just being a great series. I'd like this to be a Thunderbolts. Not the same book, but I mean, a sleeper hit that just kind of does something a little bit different with a concept that we've seen before, but it's the twist. There's a hook. I don't know what... I want to see that hook, so I'm hoping that we get a hook from this, because Thunderbolts had that. I remember the reveal in Thunderbolts when that happened. I was like, oh, they did not just do that. And I want that moment from Titans, Villains for Hire. So I'm hoping that we get that. Mm-hmm. If that makes, I know you didn't read Thunderbolts, but that's the kind of moment. I think, Ian, you know what I'm talking about. That's a moment.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, and no one saw that coming, and it was literally a sleeper hit because there were a bunch of people that I know back then that weren't picking it up, and then word of mouth spread where, oh my God, did you read Thunderbolts? No. Okay, borrow my issue, get into it, and go from there. Mostly because of the surprise of the series.
But the series was more than just the surprise.
It was, but it was the unexpected nature of it that drew people to the series. I mean, if you get unexpected here, then that would be great too, because we don't know yet exactly what the team dynamic for this Titans team is going to be. Whether they're going to be people that are trying to, similar to Tattoo Man and stuff, trying to quote unquote redeem themselves and be more on the side of light than dark, along with the dark, or if it's just going to be a straight espionage team. We don't know.
Cool.
Yeah.
Anything else from DC Entertainment Panel you guys can think of? We covered a lot.
You know what? There is one thing.
Okay.
It was one of those question-answer things where someone asked about Batman's love life involving Wonder Woman. Because you think back to with the time where it was her Blackest Night miniseries where it was they kind of like implied there could be something, feelings or something like that between the two of them.
Well, they played that in Justice League before.
Yeah.
Feelings between the two of them. You haven't read that.
Right, I haven't read that.
But I mean, that's the concept that there was potential feelings between the two of them, similar to how they played it with Superman. But I got it was funny. They seemed to play it, well, no, I wouldn't say they played it more than they played it with Superman. They played it about the same as they played it with Superman in the past. And I thought it was interesting at the time that they did it. This hint that, this person who had died was somebody who she had those type of feelings for.
Yeah.
I don't know how far they can go with that with her and Bruce. But
I don't know. For me, when someone asked the question, they kind of danced around it. Mm-hmm. And whenever they dance around a question, I always think, okay, are they dancing around because they don't have a clever answer, or are they dancing around because there's something planned in the works coming down the pipeline?
Or it could be a discussion where they don't know what they're going to do yet. Because it is a tricky thing. How much do you want to do with? How far do you want to go with that with those two characters? I don't know.
And it could also be something as simple as, this is how Greg Rucka sees it, but not necessarily the rest of the DCU. Mm-hmm. Because there have been stories before where creators have had really, really distinct views on something that the rest of the company doesn't necessarily share. And in a miniseries, a lot of the times you can get those out. Like if this is just Greg Rucka saying, this is how I'd love to see it someday, but the rest of the company doesn't agree, then yeah, we may never see it again. If however, it is a plot point that that they do want to bring up in a later date, then sure. So it's either a throwaway or it's something that we're not going to see more of, quite possibly for years, if it happens that way.
Well, it also just shows too, though. Bruce had died, and they were all just faced with Bruce's skull, and that was you got to remember, in Blackest Night, they were all hit with Bruce coming out and shooting the rings out at them as a way to do an emotional tether that linked them all. So they were playing off their specific emotions for Bruce. Bruce was somebody that Diana has had amorous feelings for previously. So it would make sense that when Diana had just recovered over that event, that it would be playing off of those previous amorous feelings that she had for him, like an old boyfriend or an old love interest, not necessarily meaning that they could be playing further into it, or they could be just doing a nod to the past, depending on how they want to handle it. Because there is past history of that. And it was the fact that, remember, you got to remember, in Blackest Night, he had jumped out. It was, and that Necron used Bruce to specifically as a link to all those specific people at that moment. So that's why, that was used to get them on like a tag, and he was the worm. on the hook, realistically, and she was still dreaming about the worm. And
Okay.
Whoa.
No comment. I'm not making any comment on that one.
I don't know what you're thinking
dear.
of, but I was talking about fishing. But
Yes, that's exactly what you meant.
that man's pure to me. Stop it. Oh, one other thing that was noted, and I don't remember if we mentioned it on the previous conversation, I do like that Robinson's going to explore in issue 44 Donna's lasso.
Yeah.
And what's, how Gail Simone's talked about what makes Wonder Woman's lasso unique, and we've seen in other stories Cassandra's lasso is unique. What is Donna's lasso's MO? And I'm glad that we're going to get some clarification for that character. See, and that's what I do like. Again, I'm going back to that. I like that Justice League right now has characters that Robinson can play with, because you can't do that if there was a Donna Troy Solo series.
It's actually a tickle lasso. When she whips it at you, you start tickling.
Is this another fishing reference, or
Well, here's the thing.
where are you guys going with this?
You guys you're going that route, and I'm just thinking, oh, Donna, oh, Donna. Yeah.
See,
So I got that going through my head right now. I'm singing Richie Valens in my head.
Yeah, it is. Well, on that note, I think we should probably wrap up this panel. But it was a fun panel, to say the least. What I love about talking about panels after the fact is not so much the events; it's what it made me think of. It's what it made me question. And that's a good panel at a convention does that. It's not so much what they said; it's what made me consider about what's going to happen next. And the panel had a lot of exciting news that got me excited for upcoming events in the series. So that's cool.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And I don't know if you guys touched on it on the DC Nation thing, but yet again on my Young Justice front, it was nice to see that there's going to be a quote unquote Young Justice reunion in Teen Titans, hopefully in the next couple of issues.
As far as bringing back the other characters as well.
Well, See, they weren't exactly very clear on that. So, I mean, whether we see Secret, whether we see Arrowette, whether we see Empress and the rest of the group is left to the beholder. But they did say something along the lines of a Young Justice reunion in Teen Titans. So whether it's just the big three, quote unquote, or it's the rest of the guys, I guess we'll wait and see.
Because I'm pretty convinced that Red Robin's coming back to the team.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I think that was. I'll be curious to see, because
we're going to get Red Robin, Superboy, Kid Flash, Wonder Girl, and then what will be the rest of the team? I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm hoping Static
even if it's just a
stays.
throwaway issue, just a throwaway issue where Secret shows up and Arrowette shows up, and Empress shows up also, that would just make my little boy heart happy on the inside.
Cool. Then you can go fishing. But
You can go, eee!
all right.
Nothing like the handy-dandy electro claw for carving through metal doors.
Alrighty, and we're back, and we're being joined from Mia Baldwin from Graphic Lee. Welcome
Hello.
to the show.
How are you?
Oh, doing pretty good. This has been a good con. You having fun today?
Awesome. Yeah. Lots of fun. A little tired. It is Sunday morning.
Now, one of the things we've talked a lot about on our show is graphic comics and just how the media is expanding. And a lot of people look at the graphic, they always say paper versus digital. And we say, no, it's a way for open up, broaden the horizons out, maybe bring in someone who hasn't been reading comics into this medium that we love. Now, you guys run a digital website. Why don't you let everybody know what exactly you guys do?
Sure. So Graphically is immersive social experience and marketplace around digital comics and associated merchandise. So if you look at a comic book, as we know, right, half of it is the art and the story. The other half is the sharing, and it's the sharing and discussion. And so our application allows you to do both of those. So you can, buy a comic and you can comment within it. So our belief, kind of along those lines, our belief is that comics are one piece of a 360 entertainment experience. So you have the movie, you have paper, you have digital, right? You have your friends, and all that should be kind of combined somehow within one. And that's how you bring in sort of the new comic reader.
Oh, that's outstanding. It's not just about the material. It's about the overall process. It's the behind, the before, the after.
Right.
And that's kind of neat, because one of the things with the podcasting we do that we just continue the discussion. We'll open it up and have people send us in stuff that will always spurn off other conversations. So you got a nice package going on there.
Thank you.
That's a neat setup. That's interesting. And I find it funny, funny, not ha-ha, but funny as an interesting that you're like, this is a social experiment. Because it is. This is something kind of new. I'm used to seeing the graphic companies out there, but not something that's going for an all-encompassing thing.
Yeah, I mean, our belief, like what I always say is that if you look at, you have your comic book store, right, where you can go in and you can buy a book. Our belief is we're just the couch in that store. We're the place where you can go and sit down and talk about comics, buy the ones you want, and that's the real comic book experience, and that's what we're trying to put forth.
That's outstanding.
Thank you.
Outstanding. Now, is this other creator-owned submissions to you guys? Are you the publisher, or are you just the medium that's presenting it?
Technically, we're the distributor. Okay. So we have publishers like, Boom and Top Cow and others that are providing content. We will expand where we'll allow creators to come and submit their own stuff.
Okay,
we're just not there yet.
Oh, okay, nice. Now, just so I want to make sure we get this out there. How can people find you? Where are you at? And follow you?
So if you go to www.graphicgraphicly, you can download the app there. Right now it's an Air app, but we'll eventually have applications for all platforms.
Okay.
But it works on the Mac and Windows now. And if you'd like, you can type in a promo code Raging Bullets when you go to buy something, and you get a free comic book. There's 4 or 5 already in there, but now you can pick whatever you want.
Okay, cool. So you guys have like a Twitter community, forum community, or is it all encompassing on the graphic.ly?
So, for Twitter, if you go to, we have Graphicly, so GRAPHICLY. You can follow us on Twitter, and on Facebook, facebook.com/graphicly, GRAPHICLY.
Okay, great. That's actually, you know what? It is a cool concept, and it is a nice thing that is I'm really curious to see where this goes and how far this takes.
Me
this
too.
Is really neat, man. And
I will tell you that for us on our Twitter and Facebook, we try to walk the walk, right? So we're very involved on Twitter and Facebook in terms of interacting with the community. We believe very strongly that our community is driving the application. We do weekly chats where we actually get our community in, sometimes creators, and we talk about a particular subject, and it's great. We get a lot of people that are really interested in sort of what we're doing.
Nice. And we will have links on the show notes. So anybody who's listening, if you're driving your car, don't start writing now, please. We don't want accidents, but we will have the shows. And we'll also have links on our website. We have a nice little section
Thank you
where
very much.
We put in, friends of the show and all that kind of stuff. So definitely check this out. And, of course, there's the Raging Bullets promotion. Thank you very much.
You're more than welcome.
Yeah, check this out.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Yep, have a great one.
You too.
Joining us right now is Alan Stewart from the Hall of Heroes. And actually, you came over and you were talking about the DC connection to the Hall of Heroes. But please tell us what the Hall of Heroes is, because the second you were talking about this, I'm like, I want to visit it, so this is cool.
The Hall of Heroes is probably the number one geek place to visit, quite honestly. It is the only comic book and superhero museum in the world, and it's inside a 2-story replica of the Hall of Justice. You can actually see a full-size Hall of Justice, believe it or not.
Okay. Which is cool, because as a kid, I grew up on the Super Friends.
So did I.
So I mean, to be able to go do that. But I was amazed as we were looking through there, the amount of materials you have. You have the original costume from the Greatest American Hero.
Yes, we got William Katz, one of his original costumes on display.
You had outfits from the Spider-Man movie.
Yep.
From the Batcave, a recreation.
We have done a airbrushed recreation of the Batcave set from the 60s TV show, complete with the Bat pole. Complete. We even have the Shakespeare bust that opens up,
yes.
And we even have the Bat phone.
Oh, very, very cool. What other things can they see at the museum?
The museum, what you're going to see is we cover the whole 70-year history of superheroes in comics, toys, film, and animation. And you're going to see, when you first come, we have a Hollywood hero section, has tons of celebrity autographs. Then you go into the Batcave and see all the Batman memorabilia throughout the cave. And then you see the Greatest American Hero section with the costume, the old Mego prototype toy that never came out. And then you go to our Golden Age section. You're actually going to see an original Captain America #1 on display. A lot of the old Golden Age stuff. We have like a Wonder Woman #9, first appearance of Giganta in the case. And we have like a Marvel Family #1, first appearance and origin of Black Adam. I mean, real original books. We have a huge World War II section. Then we have our Silver Age section. Has, first Justice League, first Green Lantern, Atom, everybody. And then we have our Hanna-Barbera section. Then you go upstairs, we have our Marvel DC sections and our library. And we actually air a lot of the old cartoons on film on our big TV upstairs. And we have our Super Friends section, which we have 20 original animation cells of all the individual Super Friends and Legion of Doom members. The original cells that hung in the Hanna-Barbera studios.
That is awesome. So there's a variety of things to do when they come to the
Yes.
Hall of Heroes. That's very cool. Now, to find out information about the Hall of Heroes, it's myspace.com/Hall of Heroes Museum, and that'll be in our show notes as well.
Yep.
For anyone looking for it.
Also,
And-
Facebook. We're actually doing a lot more on Facebook now than what we were. Facebook is our best site because we actually do weekly comic reviews. We talk about our special events. We've got Scott Rosima, who's worked for Walt Disney, Cartoon Network, Marvel, and DC, coming out May 22nd to the museum. In October, we do a super villain-themed haunted house at the museum.
Oh, nice.
Everything's changed to black lights, and we have villains wandering around the museum. It is so cool.
Now, what is the location of it?
Okay, our location, we're located at 58005 County Road 105 in Elkhart, Indiana. Our phone number is 574-293-0755. We're about 20 minutes from Notre Dame campus. We're on the northern tip of Indiana.
It's very cool. And admission's $5 for adults?
$5 for adults.
$3 for children 10 and under.
Yep.
So it's a great thing if you want to take your family and just make a day of it. It's really
We
fun.
actually work with a lot of youth organizations. We work with Scouts, the Boys and Girls Club, the YMCAs, school field trips, and we give 50% discounts for youth organizations.
That's fantastic. Where do you guys hope that the Hall of Museum will go in the future as you continue?
Well, right now we're working on our Comics in the Classroom programs. It's part of our non-for-profit work because we're actually a non-for-profit organization, so people can, donate to us, become sponsors of the museum. Today we're talking to, DC about becoming a sponsor, DC Direct. We talked to Toner, Mike Moore. We've talked to a lot of people about, we even talked to Mark Wade today. He's interested in helping us out. So we're getting a lot of big name sponsors right now. But if, somebody wants to donate to us, they can look up our information, send us, it's tax deductible. They can send us a check or something if they want to sponsor us. But it helps support our Comics in the Classroom program where we actually show teachers how to use superheroes in the classroom to teach any subject at any grade level. Art, English, history, science, music, anything. And then we work with local libraries to promote using comic books as literacy, because that's how I learned how to read as a kid, and that's where my love of history came from, because I actually have a history degree.
I teach third grade myself, so
you know exactly what I'm talking about then.
My kids, when we have comic books in the classroom, my kids that don't like to read, my kids that don't like to write, when they read a comic book, they branch off. They want to write. They want to draw.
Exactly.
They want to, and to teach sequential writing for these kids expansive writing for kids that don't want to write. Comics are such a way of engaging kids, and I think what you're doing is wonderful, though, especially the fact that you're helping teachers use comics and comic book concepts cross-curricular. Because that's something, being honest myself, my focus with it has been in reading and writing. To hear that you guys are talking about ways of just expanding and branching that out in so many other areas with it, I think that's fantastic.
And there's been other people that have done that, that they used it as learning how to read. That's kind of popular. And you've seen other people do kind of the art and writing, but nobody's really ever used it to teach history or science or music or any of these other things. I mean, you can use the theme songs from like Batman, Superman, to learn notes and things like that. So there's so many different ways for you to know how to do it. And I'm a teacher as well. I've got a teaching education and history degree. So that's kind of where just the two connected to put them together. And then the other thing that we do is we are also huge on preserving. We're also the only organization dedicated to preserving an original copy of every single superhero comic book from 1938 Action 1 to present. Now, good thing you're sitting down, because right now we have every comic book in our museum's library from 1958 to the new stuff this week.
Wow.
Every superhero comic book.
How did you guys amass that collection?
A lot of it started with my personal collection. I was on FX, the collectible show, like in 1995, which is the proof that I had the largest superhero memorabilia collection in the world. People kept wanting to come see it and everything, so then I just decided to, about 5 years ago, go and build the Hall of Justice and make it an official museum. We just got our non-for-profit status with the IRS last year, so people can donate, support. We got 20 years of gaps. We're trying to complete books from 58 back to 38, and those books are a couple of grand a piece. So we definitely need donations and sponsors for that in our educational programs.
That's awesome. And you said for more information, Facebook is the best
Facebook
place
is the
to go for
best.
it?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just look us up under Facebook under the Holly Hero Superhero Museum. Become a fan. We post stuff on there every day.
I'll put a direct link to your Facebook page
That would be great.
in
I
our show
appreciate
notes,
that.
which will go on our website as well.
It
was really great to meet you.
I'd love for you guys to come out and see it because it's just an amazing. The museum is just, I talk about it and I talk about it and I talk about it, but you've got to see it for yourself. It's just not the same unless you experience it.
No, definitely. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Basically finished the interview, and you started talking about the toys that you have there. I think this is something worth noting. You were talking about just superhero toys that you guys have collection-wise, and can you please tell our listeners some of the toys that, because you basically said you have pretty much everything. You were talking about the Ideal toys, the Justice League line.
We do. We have most of that stuff. We have, in our Golden Age section, we have the original Superman, Captain Marvel dime banks from the 40s.
Wow.
We have the 1955 Kellogg's Superman Krypton rocket mail-away set with the launcher and all 3 rockets. We have the old superhero movies from the 40s. We have one of the Batman episodes and one of the Captain Marvel original 8mm film reel in the box from the 40s episodes. And then in the Silver Age case, we have the original Justice League Ideal figures. We have the entire Justice League. We have the Marx Marvel figures, the plastic ones. We have those on display. We have the Marx Tin Marvel Train, which is impossible to find. If you find one, they're worth about $10,000. And 30-some years of collecting, I've only seen one other time.
Where did you end up getting that?
I ended up finding that on eBay about 10 years ago.
Okay.
And then we even have, in the Hanna-Barbera section, we have the Mego Mitor figure that was only done in France. We have one in our museum.
It's really just amazing the variety that you have at the museum.
We got over 50,000 comics, over 100 pieces of original art, either animation cells and real comic book art pages. We have a beautiful Jim Aparo Batman page.
Oh.
We have an original Marty Nodell Golden Age Green Lantern piece that he did for me 10 years ago when he was 83 years old.
That is amazing.
We've got some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, this is definitely a museum that I want to visit. So.
You remember the old Halloween costumes that we grew up with in the 70s?
Yeah, the ones where they were like, they were all... Yeah.
We have several of those.
Wow.
In box. We even have the Green Lantern from 1966 costume in box.
And the boxes back then were eye-catching.
Yes.
Like the boxes even...
Yeah, because it has like the Spectre on it, Spider-Man, We have the first ever Batman Halloween costume in box and the first ever Spider-Man costume in box. But also we have one of the original Ben Cooper factory molds. The factory mold, and the mold that we have is from 1966. It did the Green Lantern, Aquaman, Captain Am, Mr. Fantastic costumes. The original mold is on display.
How do you get the molds? Where'd you...
in 1995, FX The Collectible Show came out in 1995 and did a whole hour show on our collection, which is the proof that we had the largest superhero collection in the world. This is before the museum. And someone that saw that had the mold, contacted the show, wanted to know if I was interested in it, because we kind of said on air that Green Lantern was my favorite character. So it was the Green Lantern mold. And we did some research, found out later it actually did 4 different costumes.
Wow.
It's just amazing the stuff we have. It will blow you away.
And that's something that nobody would ever see.
Exactly. It's
unless
one of a kind.
Yeah.
Right. And so is all of our art collection.
Yeah. But I mean, that's really cool because it goes beyond the collecting experience. It goes through the creation, and I mean,
it's kind of insane.
Behind the scenes. I mean, no, but I mean, that's the fun of going to a museum. It's to see things that you could never see anywhere else, and the nostalgia factor, though, of things that you grew up with. And I like that balance that you're talking about.
Well, like I said, we cover the whole 70-year history of superheroes in toys, animation. The other thing we have, kind of talking about the mold, is we have one of the original Batman printing plates from DC Comics.
Wow.
It did a 1981, the Batman Poison Ivy cover. You remember it had the Wayne Tower, it had the Wayne Board of Directors, and then Batman and Poison Ivy fighting on the cover. We have the original printing plate from the factory that did that cover. And they normally destroyed those. Somebody obviously smuggled it out. Wasn't me. Not incriminating myself here, but it wasn't me. But it eventually got into my hands. But I've never seen a printing plate before. And they don't use those anymore, so it's an old school type of production piece.
Do you have a favorite acquisition? Like something that you're like, I'm particularly proud
probably
that we
the
have
Greatest
this?
American Hero costume. That's
cool.
probably got to be. In fact, I'll tell you a funny story. Your listeners will appreciate this. I couldn't resist wearing it when I got it. I couldn't resist.
I wouldn't be able to either.
It was almost Halloween.
Yeah.
And we throw a big Halloween party at the museum every year. And I've done this ever since in fact, this is kind of a side note, but I used to own Hall of Heroes Publishing.
Okay.
Do you remember Creed, Cyberfrog?
Yes. Oh, yeah,
I was the publisher of all those.
Oh, wow.
I'm the one who
Okay.
first published Ethan Van Sciver.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah,
okay.
Ethan was one of my original guys. He started working for me when he was 19. So anyway, I used to do these Halloween parties way back in the day from then on. So I've actually been in the business. I've written comic books professionally as well. But anyway,
so this has been something throughout your life. Has just been.
You've
been just immersed in this.
I could start the first church of superheroes with the Hall of Justice as our church. As our museum. It's
you know what I love though, with how much you've immersed yourself in it, you haven't lost your enthusiasm, because to me it's very clear that you are a fan, and that this
absolutely.
is a museum that is by fans for fans.
It is,
and that's something I'm like picking up that vibe for you, and I'm immediately connecting with you at
and
the
I'm
museum. Well, no, but I mean that's what we all are though. We want to go through and just be wowed the entire time, and
Exactly.
you're wowed talking about it, which is great. You're surrounded by it all the time, so I can imagine going in for the first time, having no exposure, and just going being blown away.
Now, when people come in, I actually do a guided tour.
Oh, fun.
Throughout the museum. So I kind of, make sure people realize the rare things are there, what they are. I explain the whole history. So even if you're not a big comic book fan, but you just like the movies, when you come in, you're going to learn the whole history, 70-year history of superheroes by taking a tour at the museum, because I tell you the whole thing.
That's where it's great for families, though. Because what the great thing is, usually in the families, there's that one major comic fan.
Right.
But with what you're talking about, it makes it accessible for the rest of the family, who will find it entertaining for the historical aspect of it. I think that's cool.
Now, the thing, and we kind of got sidetracked, sorry about that, but the Grace American Hero costume, I put it on for a Halloween party that we throw every year. Every year I dress up as a different super character every year, and I don't tell everybody. They got to come to the party to find out who I'm going to be. So the year I got the Grace American Hero outfit, I didn't tell anybody I had it. I got about a month before Halloween. Got, a curly blonde wig, put it on because I've got dark hair, and put the costume on. Been drinking a little too much, so I decided to do a stunt in the costume. I did a somersault off a trampoline over a bonfire wearing a $15,000 costume that I just spent $15,000 for.
Probably looked a lot like the TV show, though.
It did. My wife was ready to string me up. She goes, "You spent all that money and you almost burned it up."
Right.
But, drinking and costuming don't always mix well.
Did they get a picture?
I don't have a picture. I don't. This was probably...
Because you don't want to repeat that.
This was like 15 years ago.
Right.
And it's the only time I actually ripped a stitching outfit, and I haven't worn it since. But, you guys were talking about some of the stuff I do. Not only have I published and opened up the first museum. Another thing that's really cool, I was actually one of the 5 finalists to be Robin in the 90s movies in the Batman.
Oh, wow.
When Chris O'Donnell got it, I was one of the 5 finalists. I was a fitness instructor in the military at the time. I'm short, dark hair. People can't see, with this.
Right.
But I kind of looked the role, and I taught martial arts, American fighting styles for the U.S. Army. And I could do all my own stunts and look the part, so that's how I got so far into the audition process, but I had no professional acting background, so that's why I got cut towards the end.
But that had to have been a blast to be trying out for that role. Even the process. Wait, forget about what you're talking. You're one of the finalists. You're in that running.
Yes.
But to even just go through that process as a fan just had to have been great.
It was awesome.
Congratulations. That's cool.
And the cool thing was, because there was none of the auditions close, so we actually shot a 5-scene video.
Oh,
and
nice.
sent it in. That's how we did it.
Yeah.
And I've got my stepbrother's about 6'1". I'm only like 5'6". So we put him in a Batman outfit. Got a bunch of our friends together, there's like gangsters and stuff, and we shot like 5 scenes. One in a bar, one where I did like this flip over a toll road 100 feet above a creek, and just all kinds of just wild stuff that we did, just to kind of show what I could do and things like that. So it was a lot of fun.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, it's the Hall of Heroes Museum. It's in Indiana. Facebook, we're going to be definitely linking. The Facebook is definitely what they want to be following to check out information on Hall of Heroes. And I want to thank you for taking time to sit down and chat with us.
Absolutely, guys.
I definitely am going to stop by and visit because I think it's just
I
fantastic.
love talking about the museum.
Yeah. And I mean, that's what's great, though. As fans, we want places we can go to where we get the enthusiasm that we feel for this media.
And this is the #1 place you can go.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, there's nothing that can beat it.
And I applaud you for reaching out to education as far as showing the value of the comic book medium, of the comic book characters, and what they bring in the education. Because I do find in my own building, a lot of times I'll find some resistance to comic books and that whole medium. And I think it's great that you're educating people on the importance of their role on today's youth. So, very cool. Very nice to meet you. As I mentioned at the start of this show, we are proudly sponsored by ComicCollectorLive.com. Whether you're a comic book collector, reader, or diehard fan, ComicCollectorLive.com has the tools and information you need to take your love and passion for comics to a whole new level. ComicCollectorLive.com features important biographical information about old and new comics, action figures, trading cards, comic-related statues, busts, and more. Comic Collector Live has an extensive free online library where people can browse, get information about pretty much any comic book in existence from DC Comics and beyond. They also have 150 different private collectors and brick-and-mortar comic shops selling their swag on Comic Collector Live at incredible pricing and fair grading. Become a CCL subscriber and download a 30-day free trial of our full-featured software to keep track, manage, and organize your collection. You can also download CCL's new iPhone application to see everything from scans of the newest comics and variants every Wednesday to management of your CCL wish list to fill your gaps and kill your spreadsheet. With over 72,000 members and over 1 million items for sale on our site, come and see why there's only one ComicCollectorLive.com. And I actually downloaded the 30-day free trial of the software because I want to try it out myself. I'm definitely into this. I like that there's a website into it, and for me, I've got an iPad now, so the whole iPhone app is a really cool addition. So I'm going to be checking that out as well. And please let me know on the forums if you guys are checking this out, what you think of the software and the site, because I think it's very cool. And I want to thank them for sponsoring us. Also want to remind everyone about DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Over at DCBService.com, Batman the Odyssey number 1 of 6 is the first of 2 6-issue miniseries written by Neil Adams, art and cover by Neil Adams. Legendary Batman artist and comics pioneer Neil Adams returns to Gotham City for the first issue of 2 6-part miniseries. In this electrifying new story, the Dark Knight faces a series of seemingly unrelated challenges as villains and allies, old and new, push him to his limits like never before. After Batman discovers a dark and mysterious matrix being superimposed over his life, what sort of life-changing voyage must he embark on to escape from this powerful and insidious force? Be here to find out as Adams writes and illustrates his next masterpiece, Batman Tale. And this is regularly $3.99, 50% off only $1.99. And thank you, DCBService.com, for continuing to support us. Over at InStockTrades.com, remember Batman the Cult, $19.99 regularly, 47% off only $10.59. We'll be hitting that right after JLA Avengers. Jim, our next episode, we're going to do JLA Avengers Part 1. Let's finally get into that one. Then what we'll do is the following episode, I want to do something. There was a Wildstorm panel and a Vertigo panel, and I do want to chat about that. So we'll do that on the next show, and along with talk with a couple current titles or something like that. We'll see time-wise how that all works out, because I'd like to talk about those 2 panels real quick, and then do some current books as well, and that'll be our C2E2 wrap-up. And then we'll go back to JLA Avengers after that. So, cool. And we will see you next week.
Bye.